Well, James, it is that time again, the very last show of the year. It seems like only yesterday we were doing the exact same for 2020. I remember those heady days, mate, looking back thinking, blimey, COVID will be long gone by this time next year and we can all get on with our lives properly. But how wrong we were. I listened back to last year's one only yesterday, James, last year's end of season review. And honestly, the fact that it's only been 12 months since then is incredible. We were obviously in the season had started well. It was looking up. We hadn't had Jesse Lingard yet. We hadn't finished in the European places. We hadn't signed Kurt Zouma. There was a fondness towards David Moyes. The love was obviously growing, but there was still some clear emotional scarring from the end of that season before when we narrowly escaped relegation. But look where we are now, Jonesy. What a transformation in 12 months. It's absolutely brilliant, or it's been brilliant to do it with you all year long again, mate. We keep rumbling on the podcast, and it frankly seems like absolutely only 2 minutes ago, in fact, that we were doing that first ever show. I remember you inviting me on to the Love Sport radio show in Southwark, and me being all nervous. 2000 and God, when would that have been? Early 2019, I think. Me all nervous, going live on air opposite you, chatting about football. And look where we are now, mate. It's been an absolute roller coaster from the off. It's been another brilliant 12 months, particularly from the podcast point of view. But as far as West Ham United go, mate, the best 12 months in living memory. Surely this calendar year has never been beaten. Certainly not since I was born in 1991. But Jonesy, it's been great having you, mate. How are you feeling? How are you feeling about the year? Just loads to cover. What a 12 months.
Oh, mate, it's probably been the best calendar year that I can remember. Like, just from the very beginning, I think we started the year with 6 wins and a bounce, and it's not ended as well as it started in terms of form, but what we've achieved between January and December, like everything that's happened in between it, has been almost beyond our wildest dreams. Like, obviously, a lot of stuff, and we've spoken for so many months about how we're finally getting what we were promised when we moved to the stadium.
Yeah.
But we still kind of never really saw it coming, did we?
No.
Like, we were like,
we feel like we deserve it, but we just didn't.
We were promised it. We deserve it, but we're a million miles off of this, particularly when you scrape survival after Project Restart happens in the middle of a pandemic, and you're like, there's no way we're improving during the pandemic. Absolutely not. and then look what happens. Like finishing 6th, getting to Europe, like just making easy work of our Europa League group. Jesse Lingard smashing it for 6 months at the club, and signing up to Kurt Zouma, as you said, and just so much has happened in such a short space of time that so it's very hard to comprehend actually what the club has achieved over the last 12 months. It's pretty mad, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Well, look, over the next hour or so, me and you are going to do our very best to help try and people understand and look back at what has been a phenomenal time, a phenomenal year in West Ham's history. From a personal point of view, Jonesy, it's been a bit of a strange old year again, hasn't it? We were hoping, or we certainly were, like I say, I listened back to last year's end of season review. Just a little recommendation, by the way. It was quite a good listen. So if anyone fancies it, scroll back in the We Are West Ham podcast archives and give last year's one a bit of a listen again. It was pretty entertaining. It's quite funny to hear sort of our thoughts on a few things where we sat on some issues then, and considering what's happened in between. Good. If anyone's at a loose end, which I'm sure you will be over the next week or so, then by all means, flip back and have a listen to last year's one. But I think, Jonesy, the thing what I'm enjoying now is the pragmatism among the fan base, where even in recent times where the form hasn't been as good as you mentioned already, that everyone is sort of okay and they're a bit more understanding about it, because they sort of feel like they realise everyone's trying their best, from manager down to every single member in the squad, basically. There's been some prudent investment. The man leading the club is thought of so highly among the fans and so hugely respected for what he's done and the way he communicates with fans and just the way he conducts himself generally, really, and goes about his business. The players all seem to love being there and for just doing that basic thing that most football fans want, which is trying hard for the cause every single time they go on the pitch. Right? It doesn't always work, and some people, his form has dipped or whatever, but the vast majority, for the vast majority of the time over the last year, you've had 15 to 20 players or whatever who made up the West Ham squad. Every time they took to the pitch in claret and blue, in whatever competition it was in, trying their hardest and performing to a level that has made all of the fans, or so many of the fans, so proud to be a West Ham supporter. And I haven't had that feeling for such a long time. And I know the vast majority of supporters haven't. There was a huge disconnect growing. And honestly, it really was interesting last year's one. Have a listen, because there was still some quite... Obviously, Tom was still with us then, and he spoke really well on a couple of issues. There was the protests that we covered, the marches through the big famous march that was held at London Stadium with 7,000 West Ham fans there against the board. And we only saw it the other day, didn't we? There was 400-ish people that gathered outside, and that alone just shows the shift in mentality and feeling among the fan base about where their club is at the moment. And I haven't. This is at the moment, the last month or so, is the sort of flattest I think I've felt about West Ham this year, and we're fifth in the Premier League and through to the Europa League knockout stages as group winners and beat Man City and Man United. It's absolutely baffling, isn't it? Because the rest of the year has just been so fairy tale stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that you pretty much bang on in terms of, I feel like this is the year that gave West Ham fans sort of the pride and love that they previously had for the club, but felt like they'd lost a little bit of, particularly in recent seasons.
Loads of, mate, yeah.
But maybe over, say, the last, 10 years, even pre-stadium move. A lot of West Ham fans have rediscovered their love and pride for this football club because of what's happened over the last 12 months in particular. And I think that's really, really important to kind of recognise and look back on, in that there were a lot of fans, and you mentioned the protests last year, and see they're still going on, still plans to have more. Like, fans have genuinely believed that they'd lost the football club in their eyes. They like, really had lost all hope of ever getting what had been promised and what they felt like they deserved. And here we are now. Everyone's just absolutely buzzing. And you nail on the head when you said, this is the flattest we've been all year, but we're still fifth in the league.
Yeah,
we're still fifth in the league, and it's like, what on earth's happened over the last 12 months? But so just feeling that feeling of pride every weekend, regardless of whether it's a defeat or a win, just knowing that those players are putting in absolutely everything. And you're right, okay, sometimes it doesn't work, which can be expected, but just knowing that squad of players, that manager, that coach and staff, everyone is pulling in the same direction, and they're giving absolutely everything for the football club again, which is all we ask for as fans. And that's what's
any club, I think, isn't it, mate?
Oh yeah, and I think it's just something that we've not had for a very long time. Is that sort of real like unity within the squad and the fans, and there's a connection, there's a relationship between fans, players, manager, coach, and staff. Everyone's pulling in the same direction, which we haven't had for a while. And this year is the year we've seen it all begin to come together a little bit. So yeah, like, just pride is what this year has brought me and you and hundreds of thousands of West Ham fans around the world.
That is spot on, mate. Spot on. Now, I've got a bit of a bad habit of trying to add to something brilliant you said and just saying the same thing over and over again. So I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm so proud of my football team at the moment. What it's become, you've hit the nail on the head. And I think the idea is, as well, Jonesy, one thing that's sort of a bit of a personal thing for me this year is, I've found a seat that I like, and that seems like such a small thing, but I know everyone's a different type of West Ham fan, as there are different types of football fans. Many of you who listen to this podcast are overseas, so your experience of being a West Ham supporter is different to mine. Mine has always been as a match-going fan and as a season ticket holder since I was pretty young. First game I was 1997, Everton at home 2-2, and my first season ticket was when I was 9, and I went semi-regularly up until that period. And I'm 30 now. I've always gone to West Ham home games. I've had 1 year I haven't had a season ticket in that time, or 2 years when I went travelling, and me and Dad staged a mini protest against Golder Sullivan a few years ago because we just couldn't be bothered, and all we ended up doing was buying match tickets to about 85% of the game anyway, so it's just proved more expensive to go to less games, away games and all that sort of thing as well. But the going to home games is such a huge part of it for me, as it is for lots of fans. And this is like the third seat move that me and my dad have done. I've always gone with my dad to football, and we've finally found a spot which ticks all the boxes. Like, we're on the Billy Bond stand, but on the corner flag at the Bobby Moore end, about 3 or 4 rows from the front of the upper tier. And we've just sort of hit the sweet spot. It's about 3 seats, so the price range is like okay, 600 and something quid for the season. The view's really good. Like, it's just the right amount of high up and just close enough so you can see what's going on. The atmosphere is great because you get the Bobby Moore end, and that corner in front of us are still good. And most importantly, we're sitting around some people, some really good, some really nice people who you enjoy going to football with. And the atmosphere is still good, but it was, just that little bit of a feeling we had. I sat in the East Stand upper in the same seat for my whole Upton Park supporting career. And in that time, you obviously get to know people, and everyone around us was really nice, and it was great. And I missed that at London Stadium. It didn't feel like, when the old ground, you sort of felt like you were going to your family's probably a bit strong, but you know what I mean? Like a group of people you thought a lot of and you were fond of, like sort of friends after a while. And it's finally cracked that as well. And that's such a huge thing. And obviously the fact that we're winning games is brilliant as well, but there's no like absolute weapons around us like there have been in some of the other places I've sat, just shouting ridiculous negativity from minute 1 to minute 90, no matter who we're playing or beating. And I just feel on so many fronts, mate, the club has made so many strides forward. And I know some people still won't be able to get over the ownership thing or whatever, but in my eyes, we were owed this, all of us. We were due it because that was part of the deal to move away from Upton Park. But it's happened now. Yes, it is too late. It's later than a lot of us would like, or we were expecting, or that we deserved. But it's here now. So I'm not going to let the previous negativity ruin what is such a positive feeling that I've got, so many have got at the moment. So that's just another thing that's happened this year for me, mate. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. James, podcast wise, we said this last year, which was good as well, and there was improvements. The listener numbers had gone up. They've continued to do so this year, but exponentially so. The rate of growth and success this year has been far bigger than last year's has. Our average listenership for each and every episode, the average listenership has probably increased about 70% on last year, so nearly doubled our average. And our top 10 of most listened episodes ever, I think 7 of them have come from 2021, which is absolutely great, to be honest, mate. I mean, we've always sort of done this, haven't we? Just because we could, really. We enjoyed meeting up and having a chat about West Ham every week. We get a lot of positive messages about people who like what we do, so that's all right for us, really. We're not earning a fortune out of it. We've still both got full-time jobs and all that sort of stuff. We get a little bit of beer money out of the adverts and the kind people who've donated through buymeacoffee.com. but yeah, it's just sort of an enjoyable thing for us to do, isn't it? But this year, we've had loads of positive feedback, and new listeners come on board and stay with us.
Yeah, it's been massive, really. If you look at even like the YouTube channel, we launched that right at the beginning of the pandemic when we kind of switched over from the live radio show to this, and it kind of just left it to do its thing. But this year we focused on it a little bit more, and that's grown to almost 500 subscribers. And the opposition views the most popular segment on YouTube, which is good to see. People clearly enjoy watching that. But yeah, just throughout, it's just got better and better, and we're seeing that in the reviews we get on iTunes and stuff like that. Some of them are a lot better than others. You had a good one the other day, didn't you? About oh no, we had one together, didn't we? It was like, oh, you should stop now.
Yeah, Shadow 6 or something. Yeah.
But
I
then
would not recommend this to anyone. You should stop this immediately.
Yeah. But I mean, they're great. Like, we love those just as much as we do the positive ones, I think. But it's just good that people are taking notice and enjoying what we do, and it makes doing it every week a lot better, knowing that people are actually enjoying it, and we get people sending us messages on Instagram directly, like privately, and also on the podcast Instagram as well. People like interacting with us, engaging with us, and so no, it's great. It's great that it's getting bigger and better, and everyone's enjoying it, and looking forward to seeing how we can grow even more next year.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, and I'll be honest, on that note, just on the messages and stuff, I never really used to buy into that much. And I used to sort of hear people like, people on the radio, say, or other podcasters or whatever, would say, I've got messages from so-and-so this week, and it really made my week. And they used to go, all right, mate, tone it down a bit. I'm sure a message from a person that you've never met before didn't make your week. You must have more going on in your life than that. But having had several of those, I could reel off a list of names, and we'll get to the thank yous a little bit later in the podcast for everyone who's contributed this year. But it genuinely does a lot of the time. And we were saying earlier, the negative ones make my week sometimes. But you should just stop. And I wouldn't recommend this to anyone. That's absolutely outstanding. What's it? The one about your voice sending people to sleep. That was a cult classic.
Two different people said that this year. Made me wonder what I need to do with my voice.
Yeah. That's one of my favourites. Yeah, but honestly, to some of the messages you mentioned there, it really does give you a boost. I mentioned Rob Reeves last week, who sent me a message, or sent up the podcast a message just about the stuff we did on, like, when we were speaking about Isla and her horrible news the other week. And I didn't even, I wasn't particularly concerned about it beforehand, what we'd done or whatever. But Rob sent a really nice message, of just sort of saying thank you, some nice words about how we approach that subject. And it really did give me it really made me feel sort of, it really gave me a lift. And that applies to most of you lot who get in touch. I think just the fact that you're listening and enjoying it. We get a few pictures of people on long journeys or whatever, and it's on the radio in the car, or on the way to work or whatever. And I think that when we get notified about that, or people let us know when and how they listen, I don't know, it brings it to life for me a bit, and it sort of brings it out of, because my experience of the We Are West Ham podcast, certainly in more recent times, while it used to be sitting across you in a studio doing a live radio show, now it's looking at you through a screen most of the time. And it's sort of, I just chat. I'm not sort of putting anything on for you. Almost forget people will eventually listen to this. Me and you just have a semi-structured chat about West Ham, and then I do the editing and it gets published later. And although people are listening in the meantime, and then it's just that sort of it until we record another one the week afterwards.
It's nice to be reminded that people actually do listen.
Yeah.
And we aren't just doing it for the sake of just chatting to each other
narcissism
for a couple of hours every Tuesday. People listen and people enjoy it, which is the main thing.
Exactly, mate. Yeah, you're absolutely spot on there. And so thanks to all the long-term listeners who've been with us since the Love Sport Radio days. We know there are quite a lot of you out there who used to listen to the show and have come with us to the podcast as well. And hello, welcome, and thank you equally to the new guys who've come on board this year. We're absolutely delighted to have all of you. And I for one really enjoy the little community that we've got that listening to the We Are West Ham podcast each and every week. James, before we sort of move on and get onto the actual football side of things, because we're going to do an end of season review, so we'll do a similar format to what we did last year, where we'll go through month by month, just look at the big games, the big moments in the season, the big news stories that were breaking at the time. How we were feeling, a little bit of a look back to how me and Jonesy were feeling as fans at all these moments, and then we'll wrap up with the 2021 awards. We Are West Ham Awards, which is just moment of the year and player of the year. Before we say goodbye for 2021, just a little insight. We're recording this on Christmas Eve morning. James has just told me, which has given me heart palpitations, that he's still got some shopping to do. It's currently 11:24 a.m. I'm not happy to have heard that from Jonesy whatsoever. I'm stressing because I've literally got to do a bit of washing up and tidying up before my family get here. Jonesy's got half his flipping Christmas list to do still. So that's coming up on the show. A little bit of an insight that it's Christmas Eve. So if you're wondering why we're not talking about the Southampton game or whatever, it's because it hasn't taken place yet. So this episode will get released probably Tuesday the 28th, I think. So that'll be after the Southampton game, and then there won't be another podcast until the new year, which will be the 4th or the 5th of January. Jonesy, West Ham are 5th in the Premier League at the moment. We're through to the last 16 of the Europa League. We are out of the Carabao Cup at the hands of Tottenham. We went to that game the other night, which we'll get to. But I could have done this at the end of the show, but I wanted to do it right at the beginning, really, just to give a big thank you, because as much as it's me and you who talk on this show every week, the guests that we've had on and the other contributors to the show really make it what it is, really. And we couldn't do it. We could do it without them. It would just be me and you talking at each other 2 hours a week for a year. That's in excess of 100 hours of just me and you. And I think that's too much for anyone to bear. So I just want to say thanks to the guests we've had this year. We've had the Rib Man, Kieran Maguire, the football finance expert from the Price of Football podcast. He was fantastic. That episode got some really good feedback. We've had WHU ISA chair Sue Watson came on. West Ham legends Tony Cottee, John Moncur, Tony Carr, Pat Holland. They've all been with us. Martin Allen, Craig Forrest as well, as far as the ex-players go. Brilliant talking to all of them. Dylan Tombidi's mum, Tracy, Isla Caton's mum, Nikki. They joined us as well to talk about the work and the money, the fundraising efforts we've been doing through the Betway charity bets. Chad Yeomans from Betway, excuse me. He's been phenomenal. The support Betway have given the podcast with the charity bet section, which is brilliant. They signed up again for this season, which we're delighted about. Chad has been superb with us throughout the whole time we've been with Betway. Andy Byrne from Hammers United came on and spoke to us after he went on Talk Sport. He got a lot of kickback from that. And Andy was good enough to come on and sort of talk about that experience and a bit more about the GSB out movement and Hammers United plans. Former Premier League referee Mark Halsey joined us to talk about some sketchy decisions earlier in the season. And Britain's Got Talent finalist James Smith logged in for an interview with Jonesy as well. From a journalist side of things, we had Jacob Steinberg from The Guardian, massively respected. Tom Clark from Football London, West Ham correspondent. Jack Rosser, the West Ham guy from the Evening Standard as well. He's been great. Isabel Barker from The Sun, Catherine Batty from the Daily Mail, Nancy Gillan have all come on and added to our brilliant West Ham women coverage, and the Athletics' Rashane Thomas as well, the West Ham correspondent over there. And that is not to mention the hundreds or probably tens, actually, I don't want to go over the top, the tens and tens of opposition views that we've had each and every week, whether it be local journalists of the team we're playing or podcasters just like us, bloggers, whatever it might be. As James has already mentioned, the opposition views section on YouTube is the most watched videos that we do, so you're obviously loving those. And again, couldn't do those without the people who give up their time to join us each and every week. And finally, last but not least, Rhys Bayliss and Tom Edwards. Tom was with us for the first part of 2021. He really added to the show. He was a favourite, popular guy amongst all of you lot. Unfortunately, we did have to part ways at the end of the season, but there's this sort of no animosity there between us and Tom. It was just one of those things that had to happen for the good of the podcast, really. But we're still, chat to Tom, and there's no reason why he couldn't pop on at another stage this time next year. Rhys came in and joined us for the beginning of this season. The plan was that he would be there long term, but unfortunately for some personal reasons, Rhys had to step away from the podcast not long after he joined, but we thank him nonetheless for his efforts. And I said last but not least then, but this is last and certainly not least, is thanks to you guys, the listeners. We absolutely love that you download it every week. We love the feedback we get from you, as we've already covered. So we just want to start the show by saying a big happy Christmas. We hope you had a good one, and we hope you have a superb new year, and that 2022 is everything you want from it. From West Ham, from your personal lives. We know it's been hard the last couple of years. It seems at times like we're on the edge of it, on the edge of getting out of it. And then as we're experiencing at the moment, you kind of plunge back in. But me and Jonesy, our thoughts and hopes and support for whatever you're doing next year, that we'll be with you the whole way along. The We Are West Ham podcast will be here for another 12 months, whether you want it to or not. So thanks again, everyone, and let's get in the meat of the show. Bit of housekeeping. Jonesy, Twitter at @WeAre_West Ham, Instagram We Are West Ham Pod, Facebook search We Are West Ham Podcast, YouTube do exactly the same for all those clips that Jonesy was just talking about. You can email us if you so wish, like a few of you have this year, at wearewesthampod@gmail.com with whatever you want to say, really. Just say hello. If you want to tell us about something, do it. Most of the time you'll get a shout out on the pod. So you can do that if you want. Links to all the ways you can follow and contact We Are West Ham are included in the description to this podcast. And as I always say, normally we say you can buy us a beer and support the podcast at buymeacoffee.com/We Are West Ham. You can still do that. You will still be able to do that next year. But if you're thinking of doing that at the moment, you're thinking of feeling a little bit festive, and you were going to do something like that around Christmas time, don't. Donate it to Isla instead. The Just Giving, everyone knows where the Just Giving is. The link to that will be in the description to this pod as well. Just give some money to her, because that cause is, of course, far more important than a couple of pints for me and Jonesy. So you know what's coming up on the show. We've done our thank yous. That was one of the longest intros of the year. Jonesy's furious because he's got to get down to Asda's to buy the rest of his Christmas presents, should I say. Jonesy, are you, before we move on to the football, I assume you're nipping to Asda's. Is that for your wife's Christmas presents, is it? Or just everyone you know is getting Asda's gift cards?
No, I've done all my Christmas shopping. It's just I completely forgot to buy wrapping paper this year.
What is that?
I know. It's just really, really terrible. And cards. Normally I Moonpig them. I'm a keen Moonpig user, but this year I've left it way too late. There's no point in me ordering one now. It'll probably rock up in the new year. So I need to go and somehow find Christmas cards in the shop.
Mate, I was
12 hours before Christmas.
Man, don't worry about it. I was in Tesco last night at like 10:30 on the 23rd. Mate, there was still a million turkeys everywhere, which was absolutely mind-blowing. I was like, respect for anyone who's leaving it till the 23rd to buy their turkey.
Yeah. I mean, luckily, I ain't got to worry about all that. But I think like a couple of years ago, I left cards quite late, and I remember almost having a fight with other people because it was like free-for-all for whatever cards were remaining. People pushing each other out of the way, pre-pandemic, obviously. But yeah, I'm just dreading it. I've got to go into town. I've got to bring the boy with me as well because Lucy's going out somewhere. So at least I'll have a pram to run people over as I'm trying to get still. So yeah, it should be quite interesting. But after that, I'm done. I'm going to get home. I'm going to crack a beer open.
Yeah.
Might even crack a whiskey open as well.
Yeah, nice.
And just enjoy it.
Yeah, happy days, mate. Happy days. Please hear it. Look, let's talk about some football, shall we? It's been a great year so far. We've touched on it. Let's see what happened. And we'll start next up with January 2020. Happy New Year from our friends over at Manscaped. It's that time of the year when we all commit to changing something in our lives for the better. So why not turn to Manscaped to ensure your grooming is on point and the best it can be throughout 2022. As New Year's resolutions go, pledging your commitment to your male grooming routine is the least you can do. And Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0 has everything you need to ensure you don't drop the ball early on and remain consistent in keeping things neat and tidy all year round. And to help you get off to the perfect start, you can get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code WeAreWestHam. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code WeAreWestHam.
Yep, the Manscaped Performance Package has everything to boost your below-the-waist grooming game, from the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer with advanced skin-safe technology that reduces cuts and nicks, the Crop Preserver, which is a spray that protects against chafing, and the Crop Reviver, which will ensure things down there remain fresh at all times. To top it all off, you even get a shed travel bag so you can carry all of your precious Manscaped products in style everywhere you go. Will, have you got any grooming-related New Year's resolutions knocking about?
Well, mate, as you know, we got our hands on the weed whackers earlier this year, and whilst I thought I was a bit too young for trimming nose hair, I had noticed a couple of rogue ones creeping out the nearer I got to 30. So yeah, that's my resolution this year: regular use on the weed whacker, and make sure those nose hairs are in check and there's no rogue ones creeping out for everyone to see.
Fair. Mine is just to be a bit more on top of it. I have the same New Year's resolution every year, which is just to be better at everything. And everything in that bracket, everything is maybe a little bit of fitness, work, parenting now. And now I've got another one, which is grooming. So I'm going to be better at grooming, self-grooming, below and above the waist. And the nose hairs definitely need to be done a little bit more regularly than they have been. So yeah, I'm with you on that one, mate.
Like to hear it.
So to get your hands on the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 and to see all the other top quality male grooming products they have available this new year, head over to manscaped.com today. And remember, get 20% off and free shipping with the code WeAreWestHam. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code WeAreWestHam at manscaped.com. Have no regrets this year with our friends at Manscaped.
So, Jonesy, West Ham United entered 2021 in 10th position in the league, a position I think most fans would have been surprised about, given the situation 12 months earlier when it didn't even look like we'd be in the league the following new year, let alone midway up it. And what a start to a year, James Jones. We went to Goodison Park, played Everton, 1-1-0. There's still, of course, no fans in attendance at this time, wasn't there? All still lockdowns and all that sort of thing. We go to Everton. We win 1-0. We didn't actually move up the league at all. But what a start to the year. What can you remember of that game?
Tommy Soucek, late winner, wasn't it? Good. Not a bad performance. I was surprised because Goodison Park is a place notoriously we don't do very well at. I know we've won there since even 1st of January. We've won there again, but up until that point, Goodison Park in my brain is always a place where we've struggled. So to start the year with all 3 points, late winner, which is always nice, and I think it was on the back of sort of no winning 4. I think we ended January 2020 on a bit of a very similar to now actually. Sort of December 2020 was a bit. I think it was only 1 win in our last 5 games in 2020. So to put that to bed on the 1st of January and get the year up and running was good to see.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant, mate. You're totally right about Everton, by the way. What were you feeling then, Jonesy, before we go into a few more games? What were you feeling this time last year? I mean, it was quite interesting to hear back, because I know what you were feeling, because I only listened to it all yesterday. But what can you remember for sort of feeling at that time about West Ham?
Oh, it's a long time to think back about my feelings, but they change regularly. No, I think this time, like, well, sort of, at that time it was more like, okay, we feel like we're moving in the right direction under David Moyes. We really felt like there were reasons to be positive. There were reasons to feel like something good was about to happen. Obviously, probably not at the same level that did end up happening, but I think everyone, myself included, was quite comfortable with the direction in which David Moyes was taking us, given the situation we were in when he returned to the club. So, yeah, generally quite happy, I think, this time last year.
Yeah, just pretty optimistic. Well, Jonesy, that 1-0 against Everton was the first of 3 that we kicked off 2021 with. We beat Stockport County 1-0 at Edgeley Park in the FA Cup third round. Probably could have done with that one being a little bit more convincing, but we got through it, which didn't matter. Burnley, we then beat 1-0 at the London Stadium before beating West Brom 2-1 by the same scoreline. By that stage, that was the 19th of January. We were 7th in the league by then. We then thrashed Doncaster 4-0 in the 4th round at the London Stadium as well, before capping off a near perfect month with another victory, this time against Crystal Palace, 3-2 at Selhurst Park. And that catapulted us to 4th place. I mentioned near perfect there because on the 31st of January, we lost 3-1 to Liverpool at the London Stadium, which dropped us down a position to 5th. But a 5-place jump in January 2021. What a perfect start to the month, Jonesy. 7 games played, 6 games won through 2 rounds of the FA Cup, and the only defeat was against Liverpool. You couldn't, well, obviously it could have been better if we'd have beaten them as well, but that is as close to perfect as you're going to get, is it not?
Oh yeah, 100%. And it could have been because, there was a lot of criticism aimed towards the team after that Liverpool defeat because of the way we showed them a little bit too much respect. I mean, their defence was shot. They had so many injuries. And it was the perfect time to play them, and we showed them a little bit too much respect, and they battered us on the counter-attack. And I think Salah scored that worldie on the counter-attack. And looking back, but it was a game where a lot of fans at the time felt as though we'd kind of probably shot ourselves in the foot a little bit, but you can't really complain when you win 6 out of 7 games in a month, going into a new year with a lot of optimism, and you're sitting there in 5th place at the end of January. I think can't really complain.
No, you're right, mate. Is there anything sort of any standouts from those games? That Crystal Palace one, 5-goal thriller at Selhurst Park. That sort of obviously seems like the standout result, if you will. Obviously, beating Doncaster 4-0 is okay, but it's in the cup. You'd expect to do that. The Liverpool games you mentioned, the Selhurst Park one seemed to be sort of stood out, especially to put us 4th.
Yeah, I agree. I think that one in particular, because we'd gone 1-0 down after the 4th minute, if I remember correctly. I think Zaha scored in the 4th minute, and Souček scored 2. I think before half time, puts 2-1 up before the break, and I think it was just one of those games where, it was one of the first games where we saw West Ham go behind quite early on, but still have the character to come from behind and still win a game, or at least not panic when going 1-0 down. Because as we know, over the years, whenever we've gone 1-0 down, there's really never been much confidence that we'd ever get back into the game. But from what I remember, that game was the one where it kind of showed us that actually, even if we go 1-0 down in a game, it doesn't mean that we're beat. This West Ham team under David Moyes is never going to be beaten or written off straight away. And from what I remember, that game was kind of the catalyst to that.
Yeah, very much so, mate. Like you say, Zaha scored after 3 minutes. Thomas Souček got 2 on 9 and 25. Those were in the old days when Thomas Souček used to score goals, mate. Craig Dawson, of course, Big Craig on 65 minutes made it 3-1. And then Batshuayi gets one in the 97th minute when it's obviously too late. But a great performance, and to send us 4th was superb. The perfect start to the year faltered somewhat in February, Jonesy. I mean, again, league position-wise, it didn't really matter, but still no fans in the stadiums at this stage, by the way. So then in February, we had 6 games in total. It started off with a win at Villa Park against Aston Villa, famous, of course, because it was Jesse Lingard's debut. What a debut that was for Jesse as well. Yeah, 3-1. winners. Thomas Souček again getting on the score sheet to put us 1-0 up after 51 minutes, 0-0 at half time this game. And then, Lingard 56 and 83. One of them, that left-footed effort, was superb down in front of the Holt end. And Ollie Watkins, he did actually make it a little bit nervous, didn't he, Watkins? We were 2-0 up. He scored on 81, and then Lingard wrapped up the points just 2 minutes later on 83. That kicked it off, and we went 5th. We drew 0-0 with Fulham at Craven Cottage next before a 1-0 defeat. We crashed out the FA Cup to Manchester United at Old Trafford after extra time, that game, wasn't it? I remember being really frustrated after that one because, like you said about Liverpool, feeling like that they really were there for the taking. Then we beat Sheffield United 3-0 at London Stadium, beat Tottenham 2-1, fantastic stuff, and then lost only 2-1 to Manchester City at the Etihad. At the end of February, we were 4th, so we jumped up another place with some positive results. The 2 defeats, obviously you see some red in that month, and the draw at Fulham, you think, meh. But again, won our home games, and you mentioned there, Jonesy, about that sort of new identity about West Ham. It's the home wins, isn't it? London Stadium gradually felt like a fortress, and that's still what it does now. It finally feels like a home, mainly because it actually feels like it's a benefit to West Ham playing there for the first time ever, really.
Yeah, I think, as the years gone on, we've turned the stadium into something of a fortress, something of a place where we know that we've got the chance of beating absolutely anyone. We showed that particularly in the early stages of the year, but the big one was that Tottenham game, wasn't it? And at the end of February, I remember us FaceTiming each other after that game. Just in almost
on your balcony.
Yeah, I was on my balcony and just in complete almost disbelief. It's like, oh my god, like, can't believe we've just done that. But looking back now, you can kind of you can believe that we've done it because it was kind of, we were 4th in the league and it was going well. I was disappointed to go out the FA Cup in the manner that we did. That draw at Fulham will always haunt me because it's just like such a silly result. Like, I think they were rock bottom Fulham. Souček got sent off for that.
Thomas Souček, yeah.
He got sent off for turning around and almost hitting Mitrovic in the face or something.
Yeah, he did, literally. That was it, wasn't he? He turned around, caught him with his elbow, and Mike Dean, after a lengthy VR check, decided it was on purpose. That was height of farce.
He looked at the monitor on the side of the pitch as well and still thought it was deliberate.
Yeah, I know,
It's like, mate, it's Thomas Souček. Like, he wouldn't hurt a fly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did like those arguments. Like, people were like, oh, yeah, he would never do that on purpose. Like, it's not really the point of VAR to do like a character analysis before deciding whether or not to send the person off or not. But yeah, that was frustrating, that Fulham one. But just quickly, Jonesy, that Lingard, what do you remember thinking? What was your feelings there?
Well, I think at the time we were all surprised he walked straight into the starting 11. Because he'd only signed maybe 3 or 4 days earlier. It was quite late in the January window, wasn't it? And I think everyone was a little bit shocked that he walked straight into the starting 11. And I think, I don't know about anyone else, but there was a feeling that, for me anyway, it was like, oh, wonder how sorry Ben Rama's going to feel, and all the other players that kind of worked hard to get into the 11, and suddenly Jesse Lingard rocks up and walks straight in. But completely justified in the end. What a debut. I can't remember the stat, but he became the first West Ham player to score 2 or more in his debut for God knows how long. And he just set the tone, didn't he, for the rest of the season? Didn't he, Jesse? He gave us a little taste of going, right, well, this is what you're going to get for the next 6 months at the very least. And from that very moment, it just felt like, something's going to happen.
Yeah, it was crazy, wasn't it? I remember being, and I don't mind admitting when I'm wrong on this podcast or generally in life. Actually, more so, I'm better at it on this podcast. In my life in general, I try and be all right at it, but I'm better at doing it on this pod. I remember being really underwhelmed. I was like, what? It's just like, he's not getting in Man United's team. We don't really need someone in that position. Like, what is the point of that? So, here we go, and he's starting. And then when he did that, I was just like, oh God, I feel like right, Wally. I think I've been quite vocal about it as well. This is my way. But yeah, great start there. Frustrating at Fulham, that stupid red card from Souček. Another that was like the latest instalment in the circus that was VAR. We went to Old Trafford and lost after extra time. And any game that you lose to a Scott McTominay goal is always going to be frustrating. Straightforward win against Sheffield United. And that Tottenham game, Jonesy, Mikel Antonio goal after 5 minutes. Jesse Lingard made it 2 with that superb effort, left-footed strike, wasn't it? Down at the Bobby Moore end in an empty London Stadium. When it did the Hammers sign up to the camera, Lucas Moura made it a bit nervous with a goal on 64 minutes. That was West Ham winning 2-1 with just 30% possession the entire game, which was a stat that seemed to wrangle a few Tottenham fans afterwards. Oh, you're playing anti-football. Oh, we had all the ball.
Oh, Brit spam.
Yeah, wet spam, spammers. Yeah, great banter. Yeah, Jones. This I know it seems an odd place to do it, but we did go to the Tottenham game the other night, didn't we? In the cup.
Yeah.
We probably. I don't know. Should we leave this till the end, actually, mate? Keep the flow going of the review, should we? All right.
Let's chat about it at the end.
Okay. So. That was the Tottenham game. Yeah, 2-1 over them. That put us fourth. Then the defeat 2-1 at Manchester City. Mikel Antonio did score. Ruben Dias put them 1-0 up. Mikel Antonio scored. And John Stones, their two centre-backs scoring frustrating to seal a win for City. But I think everyone took heart from the performance. February chalked off as another brilliant month. We finished that in 4th position. March swung round, James, and there was 2 big bits of news, and both quite sad bits of news in different ways in the month. The first thing, of course, was former West Ham manager Glenn Roeder passed away. Obviously, a real shame. Glenn was not a well man during his time at West Ham, of course, and yeah, that was quite some time ago now that he managed West Ham. We were lucky enough on the podcast to have John Moncur and Tony Carr come on, and they were brilliant, gave their tributes to Glenn and said what a nice man he was. Both obviously had different experiences of him. Tony working alongside him quite closely in his role as the youth director while Glenn was in charge at West Ham. John playing under him, of course. So John was quite candid, so they didn't always see eye to eye, but you know what a good, nice man that he was. So that was some sad news that happened in March, and we were delighted to be able to do it justice and to do Glenn justice with those 2 players and West Ham legends, icons who worked alongside and under Glenn. And Jonesy, it was West Ham's accounts for the year were released that month as well, alongside Mark Noble's, or conveniently wedged in between the announcement that Mark Noble was to be retiring and that Lucas Fabianski had signed a new contract as well. Now, I'm not one to accuse cynicism lightly, but that was deliberate and on purpose for sure, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, didn't make for great reading. Keep it lost amongst the sad news about Mark Noble's retirement. Yeah, I think just on the Glenn Roeder one as well, I think it caught a lot of people off guard, that because although he wasn't very well at the time, I don't think anyone really expected that at the time. So such sad news, very really bad start to March, wasn't it?
Yeah.
On the news front.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And that's the thing, you know. Obviously, I think what was nice with the Glenn Roeder thing, the outpouring of, you know, tributes and all that. You can kind of tell, can't you, when someone dies, whatever walk of life, but particularly a famous person, you can kind of tell what sort of a person they were fairly quickly afterwards, won't you? Because with everyone, you'll get like the customary tributes and what have you. But with Glenn, there seemed to be a genuine sadness that he'd gone, and more importantly, like a genuine warmth when people were thinking back to their times with him or working with him or alongside him. Do you know what I mean? Everyone seemed to speak about what a decent, genuine guy he was. Good friend of Gazza's, wasn't he? Gazza was cut up about it. And it just sounded like he was a footballer and a football manager and whatever. And West Ham fans have sort of mixed memories, I think, of his time in charge of West Ham. But I think most importantly, especially when you die, he was just remembered by almost everyone as a sound, genuine, honest, nice man, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think even during his time as West Ham manager, I think a lot of people kind of knew how much of a nice man he was. But yeah, you're right. The tributes that were paid to him afterwards, after he died, was just a true reflection of what such a nice man he was, and how he will be missed by his friends, family, but obviously everyone in the footballing world as well that knew him and worked with him.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Well, there was some football games that took place as well in March. West Ham kicked the month off in perfect fashion with a 2-0 victory at home to Leeds United on the 8th of March. Jesse Lingard again and Craig Dawson popping up with the 2 first half goals in that game. And we, because of other games that had gone in between, we were 5th after that match. Then we went to Old Trafford and flipping lost 1-0 again, this time in the Premier League. A frustrating one, that, Jonesy. Although, I mean, it was a Craig Dawson own goal that on 53 minutes that gave United the win. But it was a strange one, wasn't it? In that we'd been to Man U twice in recent times, lost 1-0 both times, but we didn't look abject, did we? We sort of gave them a game both times, which made us feel good about the fact that we weren't going there and getting trounced and we were in the game. The month carried on then. That was on the 14th of March, the Man United game. Then we drew in one of the thrillers of the season, 3-3 at London Stadium with Arsenal. Again, a completely frustrating one, mate. 3-0 up. Ended up drawing 3-3. Jesse Lingard, Jared Bowen and Thomas Souček had West Ham 3-0 up inside 32 minutes. A Thomas Souček own goal, a Craig Dawson own goal, and then Alexander Lacazette's frustrating winner in the 83rd minute meant that despite being 3-0 up within little more than half an hour, we were still absolutely relieved to come in with just a point at the end of the game. The rest of the month played out a 3-2 win at Molineux against Wolves, a 3-2 win at London Stadium against Leicester, and then a 3-2 defeat excuse me, Jonesy. Sorry, I've got completely and utterly carried away.
You've gone into April.
Yeah, we've gone well into April. Just taken aback by the fact we only had 3 games in March. So Leeds, Man United, and Arsenal were the March games. James, we ended the month 5th. After those 3, a win, a loss, and a draw. But I think, and I've been pretty good this year at trying to be pragmatic and contextualising the points West Ham have been picking up. I think if you offered us 4 points from Leeds at home, Man United away, and Arsenal at home at the beginning of the month, you probably would have taken it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think so. The Arsenal game was a bit of a blow, wasn't it? Particularly when you look at where we finished in the season and sort of how close we were to top 4 finish. But yeah, I think
we got enough of our luck back, didn't we, that season? To be fair,
100%, yeah. And 2 own goals, really 3-0 up. It was a late equaliser. It's like, it's just not your day, is it? We could have been 9-0 up, and they still probably would have scored 9. It's just one of those days, wasn't it? So yeah, frustrating, but I think, yeah, you're right. On reflection of it, if you look at the teams we played, then 4 points, you take it.
I think that's what's been good, mate, isn't it? Is that all of this year it feels like we've got the points you'd want from your team. Do you know what I mean? Like in years gone past, where it's been, we should beat X, Like we'd spend half the time losing to like teams that we should beat, and then also losing to the teams that we're expected to lose to, which is why we'd end up like 12th or whatever. But this season, I think we've just, if you take like this year, if you took a block of 5 games and said, how many points do you want to get from those? Or do you think it's realistic? Often we'd get them. It might not always be against the teams we expected or in the order we expected to, but often, if you looked back after 5, we have got the points you'd want or expect, haven't we?
Yeah, I think so. But then on the flip side, there is a slight disappointment that, had we actually beaten the teams that we should be beating, then we'd be far better off. Obviously, when you actually take into perspective, actually being far better off than where we currently are, or that we were back in April, May, is sort of title challengers rather than top 4 challengers, which I'll be asking for a little bit too much too soon. But yeah, I think you're right.
Yes,
I think you're right. It did feel like we were still getting the points that we felt like we should be getting, just maybe not in the order that we thought we'd get them.
Yeah. No, you're totally right, Jonesy. I'm just watching back the highlights from that West Ham 3, Arsenal 3 game. Lingard's goal to start off was absolutely superb. Then we take the quick free kick, and Jared Bowen gets in, squeezes it in at the near post. Antonio's header onto Souček's foot. There was an offside question to make it 3-0. Lacazette's first goal spins on the volley, definitely going wide. Hits into the defender and goes in. The second own goal, which I've just seen, Craig Dawson's one, he absolutely smashed it into the top of the net at a rate of knots from 5 yards out. And then Lacazette's one, obviously, to make it 3-3. I'd forgotten how annoying that game actually was and how dreamland it seemed after 32 minutes. And then having to watch it all come crumbling down for the next hour. That was just... I don't like this phrase normally. That was quite vintage West Ham, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was almost like, look, guys, you've been having it good for the last 2 months, 3 months, right? Just remember who you are. We're going to dish up 90 minutes of typical West Ham.
Exactly.
Just to remind you that that you're still West Ham, and you're not massive just yet. So it's 90 minutes of typical West Ham.
Absolutely. Well, look, that's the first quarter of the year out the way, the first 3 months, and we started the year in 10th, ended the first quarter of the year, ended March 2021 in 5th with some memorable games under our belt already. Stay with us because we have April, May, and June next. 5th place going into April, Jonesy. I nearly got a little bit carried away in March there, thinking we had a few more games in that month than we did. But it was Wolves at home 3-2. Wolves away 3-2 at Molineux. Leicester at London Stadium 3-2, and then a 3-2 defeat at St James's Park before April was wrapped up with a 1-0 defeat by Chelsea at London Stadium. We were 4th after 3 of those games and then dropped back down to 5th again by the end of the month. Jonesy, now, I don't know, what do you remember most about those? That run of 3-2s, I remember being a particularly entertaining spell of football. It started, as I mentioned, with that win at Molineux. Jesse Lingard put us 1-0 up. Pablo Fornals made it 2-0, and Jared Bowen put us 3-0 up. And that was similar to the Arsenal game. Arsenal was 3-0 inside 32 minutes. Wolves was 3-0 inside 38 minutes. And when Leandro Dendoncker scored and then Fabio Silva by 68 minutes, it all felt very, oh my God, we're going to do it again, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it happened even the Leicester game after. We were 3-0 up. I'm pretty sure we were 3-0 up. Maybe, I think 2-0 at half time. We were 3-0 shortly after half time.
3-0 by 48 minutes.
Yeah, and sort of 3 games in a row, you're racing into 3-goal leads, and then you're drawing the first one and then just about scraping the other 2, and it's just like, oh my God, what on earth's going on? Like, this is heart attack stuff. This is but still managed to get 7 points out of those 3 games, and like you said in the fixtures in March, probably would have taken 7. Given Leicester were, I think, above us in the league at the time. They were 3rd. I think anyone expected us to beat them. And Wolves is always a difficult place to go. So
cliche.
Good, exactly. Good run of results, I think, all things considered.
Yeah. No, I think so. So then we had that 3-2 at Newcastle where Craig Dawson gets sent off after 36 minutes. And that was just annoying, wasn't it? And then Issa Diop scores an own goal moments later. But the Dawson red card was just frustrating, wasn't it? Like Newcastle break in, hauls him down on just for no reason, just for absolutely no reason was the annoying part of it, wasn't it?
It was a red card that everyone could see coming, because I think it was Alex Maximan was causing all sorts of bother going forward. Like every time he got the ball, we were under so much pressure defensively with his pace. You kind of just any minute now, someone's going to cut him late and they're going to be sent off, and then lo and behold, big Craig Dawson rocks up and does exactly that.
Yeah, but it was one of those games we still shouldn't have lost, wasn't it? It was like that red card particularly.
Yeah.
It was just so awful, wasn't it? Awful, like bit of a weird back pass anyway. Miscontrol by Dawson, absolutely blasts through the bloke in the middle, and then so Maxman runs up the other end of the pitch. This has a shot. Fabianski saves it onto Diop's foot and it goes in. And then the ref goes, right, that was a bad way to start the game for you, lot, wasn't it? Oh, by the way, Dawson, you're off for that. Absolutely brutal challenge. But look, I mean, yeah, Diop and then Joe Linton made it 2-0. And we got back into it, to be fair.
We got back into it.
Diop scored down the other end. Jesse Lingard got a pen. And on 80 minutes, we were 2-2. With 10 men, it didn't last very long, unfortunately, because Joe Willock's header gave Newcastle all 3 points. That was a frustrating one, wasn't it? Like, considering how rubbish Newcastle are and were, that was somewhat of an irritating one. And then, yeah, we ended up ended the month with that 1-0 home defeat to Chelsea at the London Stadium. Another red card, and this one, James Jones. I mean, granted, Timo Werner had already put Chelsea 1-0 up in 43 minutes. Again, man who can't hit a barn door, he's obviously he was going to score.
Yeah.
And then Fabian Balbuena got sent off for kicking a football.
Yeah, the Balbuena red card still absolutely baffles me. Baffles me more than Timo Werner scoring a goal. Just like every time you see it, just think, what on earth was the referee or VAR thinking? It's so obvious. Even the replays show him clearing the ball and catching. Who was it? Was it Chilwell? Catching Chilwell in his follow through, and Chilwell was so close to him when Balbuena made connection with the ball. There was just no way he could get out of the way.
He literally cleared it, didn't he?
He literally just cleared the ball, and Chilwell ran into his foot. And according to everyone that looked at it about 100 times, they still felt like, oh yeah, that's definitely a red card offence. And it was the last we saw of Balbuena in a West Ham shirt because he left a few months later. Again, I think you said it earlier, just another in a long line of really questionable VAR decisions.
Yeah, that was the most pathetic one. Souček's was dodgy, but that one, it was like, and I remember, and that's why I was glad at the beginning of the season, certainly, to see that the officials seem to have listened, because things like that, not just because it was West Ham, but are just bad for football, aren't they? The spectacle of football. Like, no one's entertained by that. No one's sitting at home going, yeah, the game's better because of that. It's like, it's a contact sport. It was clearly an accident, and he caught, like, if you're going to send players off for literally kicking the ball, that's when it got a bit farcical, didn't it, last season at several stages. So I'm glad I was glad they'd sorted out at the beginning the form of the official in the last few weeks. Some of the decisions suggest that it seems to be going back down the pan again. But that was a weird one. But a 1-0 defeat in that game anyway. We came fifth. We finished the month fifth. Jonesy, one thing, though, that did happen from a news point of view in that month was the launch of the European Super League. And I'll be quite frank, mate, I felt so proud to be an English football fan when all that happened. The reaction to it and the backlash was absolutely superb.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really expected the backlash to be, well, I mean, the clubs definitely didn't, but you know, when it was first announced, and you had Gary Neville having his say on every single sort of airwave and TV station he could get his face on, and quite rightly so, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say, poor old Gaz.
But he was everywhere, wasn't he? And he was like, I remember watching that Monday Night Football.
Ubiquitous, I think is the word.
Yeah, and it was just like watching it going, yeah, go on, Gag, yeah, you tell
him. Yeah, everyone was
telling
lovely,
how you feel.
yeah.
but they had like fans protesting. Obviously, Tom was there with his sign that went viral, and
Yeah.
it was great to see. But then there was still that worry in the back of your mind. It's like, yeah, we're doing all this, and everyone's opposing it, and even ex-players and pundits are opposing it, but can we really stop it? And thankfully, one or two clubs saw the light early doors, and which caused the snowball effect. I still think it's funny that Barcelona and Real Madrid are still pushing for
And
it,
Juventus, I think.
and Juventus. I mean, I can see why Barcelona are, because they're like £1 billion in debt, so of course they want it. Real Madrid want it just because they're greedy. So yeah, it just makes me laugh that there's 3 clubs in Europe that are still really, really desperate for it to happen, and the rest of Europe have just gone, well, yeah, I think probably best we leave it. Yeah. And like the best bit of it all was the fact that Tottenham and Arsenal both thought that they deserved a seat at the table. It's just like, well, Tottenham, like, what are you doing there? And Arsenal, you haven't won anything for about 30 years. Like, what are you doing in there? So you look back now and kind of laugh at it, but actually the sheer audacity of those clubs to even think that they could go and do that to our sport, like, just mental.
That wasn't a surprise to me, mate. You've just got like mercenary businessmen in charge of these organisations, and the organisations only mean as much from an emotional point of view to us, the fans, don't they? To the people who own them, they're just money-making vehicles. And
it's like when you've got FIFA and was it UEFA going, calling fans legacy fans in their statements and stuff like that, just showing a sheer like misunderstanding and disconnect to actually the people that matter most with this sport, the people that actually put money in these rich people's pockets.
And I think the concerning thing is, right, that you say that matters most of this sport. I think the best way of putting it is actually that this sport matters the most too. Because unfortunately, sadly,
so you're right, it works both ways though, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, do you think? I just don't think there's a regard for. I think we matter as long as we're buying season tickets and shirts. But you know what I mean? But I just don't think there is that regard, mate. I honestly don't.
I think, the old cliche, football's nothing without fans. Like from an emotional point of view, yeah, and an entertainment point of view, yeah, but also from a revenue point of view, because if fans weren't involved, like in football or didn't like football, then these clubs would be getting no advertising revenue. Because why would advertisers pump money into these clubs when there's no audience?
Match-going fans, I'm not so sure about though. I honestly don't think match-going fans matter to them anymore, because the percentage of revenue you get from tickets or whatever compared to, like the TV revenues is
maybe not.
There's a huge disparity, isn't there?
Maybe not, but again, the revenue. The only reason why there's millions and millions of pounds through TV contracts and big sponsorship deals, shirt sponsorships, stadium sponsorships, is all because there's an audience, and that audience is the football fan. So if the football fan isn't there,
but the football fan could easily. That's what I'm saying. The football fan can be in, the USA, China, Australia, the Philippines, Ghana, like that. That's the thing, isn't it? So,
but I get that. But then that's what I meant by the sport relies on the fans. 100% relies on the fans, like 100%. And it showed a complete disregard for football fans in general, just for going, well, we're just going to change the sport and we're going to take these clubs away from it.
I don't think so, mate. Because don't you think that the driving thought behind it was they were like, well, to be fair, I don't really care about the fans who go and watch Man City every week in the stadium, or Chelsea, Tottenham, or Liverpool, or Arsenal, or whatever. I don't really care about those, because the people who watch these teams in America, those countries I just mentioned, all across the world, they don't really care. They just want to see the biggest and best players playing against each other every single week. And I sort of like, do you know what I mean? And you could sort of understand that. It's a bit like real life real life FIFA or real life fantasy football or whatever. And to make that a reality for people around the world who don't have such an emotional investment in the sport, I genuinely do think there was a separation between English match-going fans over here, because you cannot tell me that the owners of Liverpool, we're more than a club and we do things differently, all that crap. You cannot tell me that the owners of Liverpool were like, yeah, this is what our match-going fans who fill up the world-famous Cop and the world-famous, supposedly brilliant atmosphere at Anfield every week. You can't tell me that they had any consideration whatsoever for the match-going fans. None. It was all about those people around the world and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I just think that, how they thought that they were ever going to get away with it just still baffles me to this day.
But just for mate, it's just the same way to get away with everything. Just do it because fans have no choice. Fans have got one football club, and like West Ham fans had no choice with the London Stadium move. You just get put in a position where you get no choice. So it's this or nothing.
Well, I think that. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, don't support a club that was involved in it, but you don't know how a lot of those fans would have reacted in terms, because that's a lot more than just moving stadiums. Like that was basically threatening to take the football club away from them and play games outside the country. Basically, just pull the football club under the feet of hundreds of thousands of fans. Just think they could ever get away with that. And I still don't think it's gone away. I still think there'll be
of course not, mate.
There'll be another attempt at something very similar, probably in the next year or two. Because it's still sitting there. 3 clubs, particularly in Europe, are still pushing, desperate for it.
In their eyes, it's untapped revenue, isn't it? And while there's untapped revenue, the greedy hounds at the top of these football clubs will go after it. That's the way it is. But yeah, you're right, mate. Let's get back to West Ham and football, shall we? That was that for April. May, Burnley, Everton, Brighton and Hove Albion. You'll never guess how we got on against Brighton. West Bromwich Albion, Southampton were the games to finish the season. I mean, what a time this was, Jonesy. 5th place in the Premier League going into May after that defeat at Chelsea. We kick it off with a superb 2-1 win at Turf Moor. Unfortunately, that didn't move us up the table. We stayed 5th after that game. And then, shock horror, we go to Brighton and we fail to beat them. We draw and we drop down to 6th. We then beat West Bromwich Albion 3-1 at the Hawthorns on the 19th of May before a 3-0 win against Southampton on the 23rd confirms our place in the Europa League group stage proper for the first time in our history. We finished the Premier League in 6th position. So, I mean, wow, what a time that was. Oh, sorry, Jonesy. Between the Burnley and Brighton game, we also lost 1-0 to Everton at the London Stadium in amongst all that, which I forgot. That was quite something that year, wasn't it, mate? I was just full of energy and excitement the whole time, and the prospect of qualifying for Europe was almost impossible to contend with. We kicked off the month, as I say, with that win at Burnley. Chris Wood's penalty put the Clarets 1-0 up after 19 minutes. Mikel Antonio had equalised 2 minutes later and made it 2-1 to West Ham. Before the half-hour mark, we held on to that result 1-2-0. Everton came to town. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's 25th minute goal gave them a 1-0 lead. The Brighton game was seriously irritating. Danny Welbeck flipping scored for them on 84 minutes before Said Benrahma's absolute rocket rescued us a point, which makes it all the more embarrassing and annoying. We won 3-1 at West Brom. Again, coming from behind, Mateus Pereira putting them 1-0 up. Then Souček scored at the end of the first half for Ogbonna and Antonio on 82 and 88 minutes respectively. Wrapped up those points before that absolutely superb game against Southampton, the 3-0 in the last game of the season. 2 goals from Pablo Fornals within 33 minutes, and Declan Rice almost fittingly scoring the last goal of the season to make it West Ham United 3, Southampton 0, and secure our 6th place finish. Jonesy, talk me through May highlights for you, standout feelings, best moments and all that sort of thing, favourite game, whatever.
Well, I think the Burnley game was big, but the equaliser against Brighton, I think, really felt like, because we just lost to Everton, you go to Brighton game, you 1-0 down to a Danny Welbeck goal, and you think, oh, here we go. Like, we're going to bottle this, aren't we? We're going to bottle top 6. But the late Ben Rama, it's his first goal for the club. Late Ben Rama equalised at the Amex. It was then where I felt, yeah, do you know what? We're going to do this. And West Brom, on the face of it, felt like a bit of a banana skin. Sam Allardyce in charge. At the time, we just thought, oh, he's gonna mug us, isn't he?
There was fans back in for that one, Jones, as well, wasn't there? 5,300.
Yeah, it was the first. That was like the first weekend when I think it was a Monday night game. It was the first weekend where fans could. I think clubs were allowed a certain percentage of their capacity in.
No away fans, though, was it?
No away fans, just purely home fans. And again, there was that feeling that we're going to Sam Allardyce's West Brom, desperate for a win to secure or have a chance of securing top 6 finish, and they got something of a home crowd there as well, where we haven't got any fans. It's like, oh, what's going to happen here? Yeah. And then when Declan Rice misses a penalty early doors, didn't he, hit the post? I remember in that one. And thought, oh, here we go.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah, he just clattered the post, hit it as hard as he could, Julian Dick style, and it just smashed off the post. It was, oh, blimey.
Brilliant.
But got it done. And then the rest of it was pretty straightforward. Southampton that's always 3-0 against them. At London Stadium, 4 hours double. And I remember that game because I cried afterwards because I was just so proud that we finished 6th. I had tears in my eyes.
How drunk were you?
I was at home, so only about two cans of beer in, so I wasn't that drunk.
Really? Yeah, that was a phenomenal. It's just a phenomenal feeling, wasn't it, mate? And like you say, and not just because it's what we've been promised, and we do talk about that a lot, and that does play into a lot of our thinking. Fans generally, not just us, and so it should, because we were promised something when we left Upton Park, a place we all loved playing football at. But put that to one side for a minute, right? Wherever we were playing football, just to see West Ham qualify for the Europa League group stage proper European competition for the first time ever. I know we got to the qualifiers before, and I was excited about those games and disappointed when we didn't get through to the group stages then. The Intertoto Cup, whether you count that or not, whatever. But to do it like that, aside from where we were playing football, aside from the stadium stuff, what we were or weren't promised, just to see my football club qualify for proper European competition, proper way via good performance in the league, not getting as many yellow cards as someone else over a season. I'm the same as you, mate. I don't think I got emotional, but I certainly just that pride feeling again, and just like, this is what it's all about. This is what I've wanted for such a long time, and see it come to fruition was brilliant, and just immediately made me excited, really, mate, about the draw and what was to come.
Yeah, I think what was good was that we were getting loads of plaudits from neutrals at the time as well. It wasn't just like, oh, look at West Ham is snuck in through the back door here. We'd earned the right to be there in the top 6, and everyone agreed and thought, no, do you know what, West Ham are worthy qualifiers, worthy 6th place finishers, and David Moyes done an incredible job, and Declan Rice, is best midfielder in the world, and all that stuff, and it felt like we'd almost arrived a little bit. It's like, West Ham have arrived now, and people are actually sitting up and taking notice of little old West Ham doing well, and going, yeah, they are doing well. David Moyes doing a cracking job. To cap it off with a win like that, finish 6th, makes you buzzing for the new season. Couldn't wait for the summer to come and go so the new season could start, even though we had England and the Euros to worry about, and that was another wonderful story. But yeah, I think there was just so much eagerness for that draw to come, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And I think that was the thing as well. Like with the Euros coming up, that was exciting. Declan looked like he was going to get he knew he was going to get a shot. Even Jesse, I think, was probably a little bit unfortunate not to go. I kind of understand why, but I reckon he was probably one injury away from making that squad as well. He worked his way back into contention through his great performances with West Ham. And I think it was superb. June, Jonesy, that kicked off. Obviously, we were all excited for the Euros, and on Saturday the 12th, it was announced that West Ham manager David Moyes signed a new 3-year contract, having guided West Ham to a 6th place finish in European football for only the 3rd time in their history. Obviously the first time we got to the Europa League group stage proper. So I don't know why the Independent wrote that at the time, but brilliant, absolutely brilliant stuff. It was exactly what we all wanted, and it just was another move, wasn't it, towards basically like, oh, we're actually a proper football club who are conducting ourselves properly.
Yeah, we knew it was coming. He only signed a 1-year or an 18-month deal when he first came back to the club, and I think everyone just knew it was going to come. It was just a matter of when they were going to announce it. I think a lot of people thought they'd give it to him in January after a decent first half of the season, but by the time it gets to sort of March time, and we're sitting there in 4th. And in April, we're now in 4th, and everyone's talking about Champions League football for a period. And everyone's like, well, just give him a 10-year contract and be done with it.
Lifetime deal.
Yeah,
like the one Pardew got at Newcastle under Mike Ashley.
Yeah, which I think it's only just expired, that one. I think.
Yeah, 8-year contract. What a ledge.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, I mean, 3 years probably a fair contract to sign, and he's still got plenty of time to get us into the Champions League.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Brilliant stuff. We'll just do it quickly before we move on. The Euros. I was so proud to see Declan Rice play the whole thing. I was proud of England. This has been the best year for football for me ever in my life. England are brilliant. I love Gareth Southgate. I love the team and all one of the players, what they represent, the way they conduct themselves and go about their business. We did well at the World Cup, and to carry that progress on, anyone who I find it absolutely baffling people running down Southgate or whatever, because we've had better players than we've got in the past. We had that golden generation, and no manager could tame them or corral them into playing with each other, to putting their egos to one side and that ridiculous club rivalry that they bang on about as if the players don't have club rivalries these days. You've got a manager who's making sure a group of players leave their egos at the door and leave their club rivalries to one side, unite and play the best football to the best of their ability for the good of the nation. And it was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. And even the Euros final, and I've had this on a couple of occasions in my life, similar to when we lost the FA Cup final to Liverpool, I was gutted afterwards. But I always still say that's one of my favourite days of watching with being a West Ham fan, because we got to an FA Cup final. I got to watch my team there. Same with England with the Euros. All right, we lost on a penalty shootout. We got all the way to the end of a final. It's the first I've ever seen that in my life. And I was just full of pride for the team and for what it did to everyone, all my mates, getting to that, watching games with my friends and family and all that, and getting to such a monumentous occasion. And deserving to as well. And to have a West Ham midfielder playing at the heart of it, it was just dreams are made of, mate. For fans of clubs like us who aren't used to winning stuff, to see that happen, the team you support, particularly in your country as well. I've always been a country over. Whenever anyone says, "Oh, what would you rather win, the World Cup or the West Ham win the Premier League or Champions League?" Without fail, I say England win the World Cup every single time. And yeah, I was loving it, mate. It was so heady. It was just like, what is going on? West Ham qualified for Europe. England were in the Euros final. And afterwards, I just felt pride. Like there was hardly any disappointment. I know we lost, but we got to the final. That was already an achievement in itself. Like, it was already further than any England team had got in my lifetime, or ever. Like, as far as the Euros go. And I think that should be seen as an achievement in itself. And I was just full of pride, and it was football delirium at that time of the year, mate.
Yeah, it was delirium. I was just as proud, mate. Plenty of tears, particularly after that semi-final when we got to the final. Because
I didn't know you were such an emotional football
I've
fan.
always been an emotional football fan. Like generally, particularly after a couple of beers, but even without the drink helping me on my way, I've always been quite emotional when it comes to sport. But just never expected to ever see England play in a major final. Like, particularly after all that golden generation years, you mentioned it, and like Lampard, Gerrard, and Owen, and Beckham, and all those players that came through. Everyone was like, "This team's got to win something at some point," and it's just never got anywhere close. And after that, you kind of almost accept the fact that England aren't going to win anything in the My Life lifetime, or even get to a final. So for them, and then obviously the World Cup a couple of years ago was a disappointment. Felt like we probably should have made the final at least, and then maybe that I felt like that was maybe the chance, that was the opportunity. We've missed it, and so for them to do it this summer and do it the way they did, beat Germany on the way, and then get all the way to a penalty shootout and come so close, and I felt exactly the same as you, mate. After disappointment, but pride more than anything, just sheer pride that, and I was incredibly lucky enough to be there on the day and see the game.
Oh, I forgot that. I forgot you went.
Yeah,
Mental.
yeah, so lucky to be there, and just an incredible experience all round. I look back at it, and my brother was with me. We both agreed that disappointing to lose, but we had our moment. All we wanted was when we met up that day. I said to my brother, I said, "What do you think?" He said, "I don't really care as long as we have that moment of celebrating a goal." In the cup final. We didn't expect it to come in the 3rd minute via Luke Shaw, of all people, but we got that moment. I've ended up 5-6 rows in front on my back, leg tangled up in a seat, and it was just absolute mayhem. And I loved every minute of it. And afterwards, you kind of walk away and you're gutted that you'd have to lost in the final, the penalty shootout, and you look back and go, actually, I've never celebrated a goal like that ever in my life, and I probably never will again.
No, I totally agree, mate. That's what we've said that on this podcast a few times, haven't we? Football fans want moments. That's what they want. They want things, particularly I was chatting to Steve, the Luton fan, who summed it up for me well. Football fans, especially of a lower league, or not lower league clubs, but top 6 clubs or whatever, right? Fans who very rarely win anything, right? And I can't, like Everton and Wolves, downwards, basically, right? They just want moments. They just want things to hold on to and remember and talk about and enjoy. And same with England. We've been a perennially unsuccessful team. It's not like if you're a Germany fan or a Spain fan or even a France fan. You've had actual tangible wins that people go, oh, yeah, that must have been brilliant. Yeah, you're totally right. England fans just want things, and getting a goal as well. Yeah, same as you, mate. I mean, I watched it in Gauchos in Piccadilly. It was absolutely bizarre. Yeah, it was brilliant. It was so good. But we sort of got let down on a place we were going to go to, like not long before, and we were scouting around. And this place we ended up finding. It was brilliant. There was 12 of us in there, and I did it was a great thing. It was bizarre, but yeah, just basically like set up the TVs and stuff in the steak restaurant. So we had some good food before, and then watched the game and drinks and all that sort of thing. And it was superb. It really was good. And yeah, exactly what you said. I'll never ever forget that. And so many of the moments in the Euros, but I'll never ever forget that the goal, and even the penalty shootout. I remember I was annoying everyone. I was just like convinced, because everything had gone so well for the season for me football wise. I was like, we're gonna win. Like when it got to penalties, I was like, don't worry, everyone. We are definitely going to win. No doubt about it at all.
At one point, it looked like we were going to win because
when Pickford saved Jorginho's penalty, I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
Of course we've won. And I must admit, it was a little bit of a balloon bursting literally 5 seconds later, and Saka proper crap penalty on it. Yeah. But yeah, brilliant stuff. Brilliant to see Declan Rice involved as well. Just all round good stuff. Good feels for that summer. That is it. We're halfway through the year. Now that takes us to, technically that's June and July, so we're a little bit further on. But we'll be back again in no time with August, September and October as West Ham kick off the 2021-22 season in superb fashion. So, James Jones, from a news point of view, with the heady heights of the Euros out the way, West Ham had qualified for Europe. We had a few intriguing news stories. The first one being the PAI takeover, PAI Capital. Their takeover was announced, or their takeover bid was announced. You were particularly vocally unhappy about it. Mikel Antonio, this is all in August, by the way. Mikel Antonio broke the record for the most Premier League goals for West Ham United, beating Paolo Di Canio's record. And it also emerged that David Sullivan had left his long-term partner and was dating Real Housewives of Cheshire star Ampika Pixton, who was more than a couple of decades his junior. Some different stories coming out, Jonesy. I'll give you a quick run through of what happened from a football side of things as well. Just 3 games in August. We beat Newcastle away at St James's Park 4-2 to propel us into 4th. 50,600 people, fans back properly, which was great. Then we beat Leicester 4-1 at the London Stadium to go top of the Premier League, if you please. And then a 2-2 draw against Crystal Palace dented the good feels somewhat, but an unbeaten start to the Premier League season. We remained top after that game as well, and the Leicester and Palace games in excess of 59,000 back in the London Stadium. Football felt a bit more back to normal, which was great. So 6 big things to cover there, Jonesy. I'll let you decide which one you cover about first. Which one is most memorable from those August events?
Well, David Sullivan's new missus was probably the least memorable story. So
the least memorable? Jake, yeah. That's huge.
Oh, I mean, it was big news at the time, but kind of, again, yeah, meh. Whatever. For me,
so non-tabloid, aren't you?
Exactly, yeah, mate. But
that's a difference to me and you, Jonesy. I think
you work for one, didn't you? So
well,
PAI takeover is the big story, wasn't it? Other than on the pitch, obviously us going top of the league for a couple of weeks. But yeah, just I look back now and just go, thank God they never bought the club. Just there was so many alarm bells ringing from the off with the way that they conducted their attempts to buy the football club. That's why I was so vocal at the time. Just typos in statements and getting facts wrong about the club.
You hated that, didn't you? Calling us West Ham FC.
Like West Ham FC, and saying that West Ham never sold out Upton Park, and like just grammatically incorrect sentences and stuff like that. It's just like, what are you doing? Like, if you can't get this right, you cannot run a football club properly. You can't be trusted to run a football club properly. I know they got, they've got Rio Ferdinand, a West Ham legend and stuff like that. They got Tony Cottee on board, which was a good move from them. Tony got involved, and
off the back of our podcast, it might be worth adding.
Yeah. I mean, we asked him about it, and he said, "I don't know anything about it." And then 2 days later,
he was with us for 2 hours, wasn't he?
Yeah, so
a full 2-hour episode.
But I don't know. I just think, even with Tony Cottee on board, I still wasn't 100% convinced. I know Cottee was trying to convince us otherwise, but yeah, I just think so much had happened by then that.
Even that on its own right, though, even Tony's. So sorry, just before, but let me just jump back quickly. All of that, by the way, the start to the season came off. I missed this for July. Came off a pretty perfect pre-season results-wise. You'll have heard me before. I don't give a stuff about the results in pre-season. I know everyone bangs on about it sometimes, but I don't really care. But we drew 2-2 at Dundee. Beat Northampton away 2-1, drew 0-0 at Leyton Orient, beat Reading away 3-0, beat Celtic away 6-2, beat Brentford away 1-0 before a victory over Atalanta, which was actually August, which was 2-0 at home at the London Stadium as well. So just a little bit of context. But back to that PAI Capital thing, Jonesy. As I mentioned, Tony Cottee came on. He did a 2-hour feature-length podcast with us, which was absolutely superb. And that was one of our most listened to episodes of the season, understandably so. And, you know, a lot of that spike in listeners we got, a lot of them carried on off the back of that. I mean, even that in itself seemed reactionary, didn't it? Tony comes on and does a podcast with us, 2 hours long, talks sort of fairly candidly about his love for West Ham and, you know, and the PR capital. And he didn't say too much about them. And then days later, it's almost like, oh, look, you know, because it did quite a lot of traction, didn't it? On like a few of our videos went viral and stuff on Twitter and on YouTube. We've got some decent views, and it's almost like, oh, look, he's popular with West Ham. We'll get him on board. We're not 100% sure on the timeline. I think there'd been some early discussions, to be fair, between the two parties, between Tony and PAI before the podcast, like some initial contact maybe. But then afterwards, all of a sudden, like, you know, after that podcast, it's great for us. Obviously, it was great, and it was brilliant having Tony on. He was wonderful with us throughout, and none of this is in any way a negative about Tony, because he's been superb with us from the day we started the podcast, really. But it just seemed, even that, it was like, all right, so a few videos about it go viral. West Ham fans clearly love him. Oh, now we'll announce that he's on board. And again, massive appreciation to Tony. He gave us his first interview of anyone. The first interview he did after he confirmed the PAI capital that he was going to back them. He did it with us, so we're forever grateful for that. But from the PAI capital point of view, it just seemed more amateur hour stuff, didn't it?
It was more amateur hour stuff. It was all too public for my liking as well. Like everything they did was in a really badly written statement, and it was all sort of hearsay and, you know, getting ex-players to do the talking for them, and it just, everything was amateur hour from the very beginning, right all the way to the very end, when they announced that they were no longer going to pursue the club, at least until the Sullivan was ready to sell. Even then, it was just like, guys, just leave it now. So thankfully, they didn't. They were unsuccessful, and we got someone. The club isn't sold, but I know we'll get onto it. But we've got a new investor that seems a little bit more, knows what he's doing. I think a little bit better than those guys.
Yeah, exactly that, mate. And what about on the pitch then? If you're obviously not interested in talking about the David Sullivan news anymore, which is absolutely shocking to me, but the first game of the season started in brilliant. Well, it didn't start in brilliant fashion, because Callum Wilson put Newcastle 1-0 up after 5 minutes, and it was like, oh, here we go again. Jesse Lingard hadn't returned, and you thought, oh God, here we go, back to normal West Ham. Last season was just a flash in the pan. But thanks to Aaron Cresswell, Said Benrahma, Thomas Souček and Mikel Antonio, and despite Jacob Murphy's goal for Newcastle, West Ham came away 4-2 winners. A great and entertaining start to the campaign. And then the Leicester game, 4-1 at home. 8 goals in 2 games for the Hammers. Pablo Fornal, Said Benrahma and a Mikel Antonio brace. Far too much for Leicester, who scored for Yuri Tielemans and saw Ayoze Perez sent off with 5 minutes to go in the first half. You were absolutely waxing lyrical after the game. It's the best atmosphere ever at London Stadium, which it obviously wasn't. It was just another good one on the list. And then the 2-2 draw with Crystal Palace capped off the month in a slightly frustrating fashion, I think. Fornals and Antonio scored our goals. Conor Gallagher getting 2. For Palace, we went ahead twice and were pegged back twice. Great performance from Gallagher that game. What's on the pitch? What are your thoughts then on that, including Mikel Antonio's reaching the 50-goal milestone for the Hammers as well, which was great.
Yeah, the Newcastle win was, I wouldn't go as far as say was unexpected, but I think you're right. When Wilson scores in, what was it, the 3rd minute, you kind of go, here we go again. But kind of set the tone for what we've seen this first half of the new season, isn't it? And that Leicester game, at the time, still stand by it, probably one of the best
You've already toned it down, haven't you?
At
You
London
would
Stadium.
still stand by it, probably one of the best. At the time, you said it was the best.
I think it probably was, yeah. I stand by it. And the
It's
reason
not
why I
anymore.
stand
You've
by
changed that now, haven't you? You've
I mean,
since called it the Chelsea and the Liverpool one.
it wasn't at the time. The Liverpool one tips it now, but at the time it was because that was the first game that fans were allowed back in the ground as a full capacity stadium.
59,901 in that day.
It was under the lights. Everyone was absolutely buzzing. I think it was a Monday night, and just absolutely bouncing. We end the game top of the Premier League. Just a continuation of the end of last season. We've just started exactly the same way, and it was great, absolutely great. And then we brought back down to earth by not being able to beat Crystal Palace at home, which was very frustrating. But we stayed top of the league despite
we did. Yeah,
points from that. So, but yeah, a good month, good start to the season, good month of August, and the best was still to come, wasn't it?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, absolutely. September. I mean, this was when the real excitement began, wasn't it? Of course, the Europa League draw was made prior to September, and we were drawn against Dinamo Zagreb, Rapid Vienna, and Genk in our group. And I think there was a sort of perhaps there was a desire for a bigger team. I think in hindsight, I'm glad with the draw we got because there were still some great experiences and great games in there. But we made light work of the group and were able to get through. And after a 0-0 draw at St Mary's to kick off September on the 11th, we dropped to 5th place by then, unfortunately. I've got a feeling, Jonesy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've got a feeling that Crystal Palace game might have been the lunchtime kickoff on the Saturday. Therefore, we stayed first, and then some other games happened because by the end of the Southampton game, we dropped all the way down to 5th after 2 draws on the bounce, despite our phenomenal goal difference. The frustrating 0-0 at Southampton. But then, Jonesy, the real fun started. Dinamo Zagreb away. There was all a load of faff about how many fans would be allowed there, if West Ham fans were going to be able to travel, this with all the COVID restrictions and all that sort of thing. But eventually it all went ahead. The Mikel Antonio got sent off at that Southampton game as well, didn't he? Right at the end for a really, really stupid tackle. Absolutely ridiculous. No need to make it 0-0 lunge in the 95th minute to get a second yellow. Buffoonery of the highest order. But yeah, then Dinamo Zagreb in the Europa League, mate, away from home. Didn't go out to that one because it was all a little bit too short notice, but recorded a famous 2-0 win to kick off our group stage campaign in perfect fashion. Then Manchester United visited the London Stadium and we lost 2-1. Jesse Lingard coming back to break our hearts. I mean, you literally could have written it, couldn't you? And then, of course, Mark Noble coming off the bench to take the penalty that would have earned us a draw right at the death, and that backfiring. Dramatic game, that one. Indeed, lost 2-1. But then we redeemed ourselves literally just 3 days later when we went to Old Trafford in the League Cup and beat Man United 1-0 thanks to Manuel Lanzini's goal in front of 72,000 people, the highest attendance, the biggest crowd West Ham's players have played in 2021. Then Leeds, we went to Ellen Road, won 2-1 there. Absolutely happy days before beating Rapid Vienna in our first ever home Europa League group stage game, 2-0 at London Stadium in front of 50,000 people. A busy month, James, that's for sure. Which was sort of the highlight for you in all of that? Because there was quite a few standouts.
Obviously, the getting a European campaign off to a winning start was probably the highlight. Dinamo Zagreb. I think that was seen as our toughest game away at Zagreb in the Europa League group stages. I think a lot of people thought, that's going to be our toughest game. And we made it look so easy, didn't we? Really, really strong performance, dominated the ball from start to finish.
Yeah.
Declan Rice's goal. We could pick the ball up at the halfway line and just run through and then nutmeg the keeper for the goal was superb. And kind of set the tone for the rest of the group stage, didn't it? And the Brentford game will always, I know, I'm looking at that's October. We'll get to that. The Man United
calm
game.
Down, Jesse. You're doing to me.
I'm doing to you. Yeah. The Man United game was. I mean, everyone knew it was going to. As soon as Mark Noble came off the bench, they knew it was going to happen.
Well, mate,
He was always going
on
to
so
miss.
many fronts, wasn't it?
He was always going to miss. Lingard was always going to score. If ever a football game could be written with a script, it was that. Like, sorry, you couldn't write it. You definitely could.
Benrahma 1-0 up. Cristiano Ronaldo equalising of all people. And I must admit, mate, it was good to see him. It was great to see him back again. He's always been, I've always been a Ronaldo over Messi. If you had to pick, I know they're both good. I can't be bothered to get into it now. It's a boring chat, but I've just always liked Cristiano Ronaldo, and what he's done. Seen him a few times, love watching him play, and it was brilliant to see him back, actually. Obviously annoying that he scored and you want West Ham to win, but just to be able to say that, because that'll be a thing in 50 years' time, if we have grandchildren or anything like that, you'll be able to say, oh yeah, I watched Cristiano Ronaldo play. And yeah, so good seeing him back. But yeah, Ronaldo made it 1-0. Then Lingard comes off the bench, bends one in the top right corner, pretended he didn't want to celebrate, but obviously did. And then yeah, Noble. I mean, well, how do you even put that into words, mate?
You don't. Just again, it was similar to that Arsenal game earlier on in the year where we 3-0 up and ruined it. It was just like, it was almost like a reminder that, oh, don't forget, you're still West Ham. You're doing well, but you're still West Ham. So yeah, kind of walked away from that game like really frustrated, really annoyed with the way it panned out, but also not in the slightest bit surprised in the way that it panned out at the same time. Yeah. But yeah, like the other highlight though, okay, we beat United in the League Cup, fine, but winning at Leeds.
First win at Old Trafford in 17 years, mate.
Yeah, I think it almost went under the radar.
15. I keep getting that wrong. 15.
It almost went under the radar a little bit. I'm not too sure why, but the Leeds game for me, winning that in the last minute. Ellen Road's always been a rubbish place for us to go. We won there behind closed doors the season before.
Yeah.
But I was worried about that game because full Ellen Road, it can always be a bit of a horrible place to go. But yeah, okay, we had to wait until the last minute to get the winner. But winning there in a full Ellen Road, I don't think can be underestimated. And the scenes, the fans celebrating were incredible. So that was one of the highlights. But it was just a good month all round. I mean, Man United defeat aside, it's a really solid month of football.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And then capped it off with that home 2-0 win against Rapid Vienna. Declan Rice scoring the first before Said Benrahma's sumptuous effort right at the death wrapped up the points and saw us top of our Europa League group still, where we stayed for the duration of the campaign into October. Actually, Jonesy, yeah, sorry, my bad. I'm supposed to take a break here. We're doing it by 3-month sections. So you'll have to wait a couple of seconds and hear the little Come On You Irons jingle before we get into October next. So, Jonesy, October started in annoying fashion. Brentford at home lost 2-1, last-minute winner for them. I took my mate, his little boy, for his first ever game, so I will always remember that. For that reason, it was an absolute delight having him with me. He was loving every minute of it. The result was just frustrating as hell, and it put us 9th, and there was a bit of sort of annoying feeling after that, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was frustrating because we'd started the season so well, and we'd bounced back from that annoying Man United result by winning 3 on the bounce in all competitions, and then you end up losing in the last minute to Brentford at home. That's no disrespect to Brentford, they had a good start to the season. They're in a bit of a good place, but that's 2 defeats in a row where you've lost to late goals. And you probably shouldn't have conceded those goals, and it's just really annoying. It's just blotches on the record sheet because I think at that time, what was it? That was only our 2nd defeat in 14 games in all competitions, dating back to the season before.
Of May, yeah.
So it's keep that record up, and you're losing to last minute goals, but I think that puts 9th in the Premier League, and suddenly we're slipping into relegation battle territory again, which we're kind of used to.
Not from being ninth. Yeah. Well, look, the October certainly got better after that, mate. In fact, it couldn't have gone any better. We went to Goodison Park and won 1-0 thanks to Angelo Ogbonna's header in the Premier League. Then we won 3-0 at home to Genk in the Europa League before a 1-0 win over Tottenham at the London Stadium in the Prem. And then how the hell we did this, I do not know. Beating Manchester City at home in the the Carabao Cup, excuse me, their first defeat in the competition for 5 years before a 4-1 win at Villa Park. Now that, mate, from the 22nd of September to the 31st of October there, I know it included the Brentford defeat, but even that, as I've already mentioned, was special for me for different reasons. That spell there from beating Dinamo Zagreb away on the 16th of September to Aston Villa on the 31st of October, we've got some big games in there. We only lost 2 of them, and that was my favourite part of the whole of 2021 for me.
Yeah, it was a good spell. The City game in the cup, like almost, it was a great result, but at the time it felt like, yeah, but this is kind of what we do now. Like,
that felt special, that one.
I mean, it was a special result, and no one saw it coming. But when it did come and it did happen, and Ben Rama scored the winning penalty, it was almost like, I can't believe we've done that, but it's kind of what we do now. Like this is the West Ham that we are now. Like we're in the top 4 of the Premier League. You know, we've already knocked Man United out of the cup. Now we've knocked City out of the cup for the first time in 5 years. We've just beaten Spurs in the Premier League. You know, this is West Ham. Like we've arrived. We're here. Yeah, okay, we finished 6th last year, but now we want to go a little bit better. We know we're not just a flash in the pan. That's what it felt like to me. And then you go to Villa Park and you smash Villa 4-1. And I think it was that period that you mentioned was almost like a statement period from West Ham. I think the 2 silly defeats to United and Brentford in between, but overall it was a statement period for West Ham, I think.
Of course it was. 11 games, 2 defeats. The rest were victories, or albeit one on penalties. Both the defeats are by the odd goal, and they're both like last-minute goals as well. I just thought it showed the complete strength of the team. And the best bit about it for me, mate, is how that we did it all without Lingard. And that's no slight on Lingard at all. I think there was a belief that, without him, they're not going to be as good. And I was disappointed like some when he didn't come back. But ultimately, it proved we could do it without him. Said Benrahma was stepping up, wasn't he? And almost being sort of like filling his shoes, basically, which was brilliant. But when it's a period like that, when a win against Tottenham kind of gets overshadowed, 1-0 thanks to Mikel Antonio's goal, when that kind of gets overshadowed, you know that things are going well, don't you? The records speak for themselves. First win at Old Trafford in 15 years. Beating Man City, knocking them out of the cup for the first time in 5 years, continuing our perfect record in our first ever Europa League group stage campaign, and sprinkling another couple of decent Premier League away wins. It felt like proper dreamland stuff, but that was easily my favourite spell of the year. The January bit was good, but we didn't know where we were then or what the potential was. But that was absolutely my favourite bit. Jonesy, November kicked off with another landmark occasion for me. Genk away in the Europa League. I managed to get out there and go with my dad. And again, proper bucket list stuff that was, mate. Lifelong dream to watch West Ham away from home in Europe. The win would have almost made it too perfect, I think. The fact that we drew 2-2 and the Thomas Souček own goal at the last minute saw us only draw our first game in the Europa League where we hadn't won. And it was another thing, mate, a bit like we talked about with the Euros earlier. I wasn't bothered afterwards. I went to go and see West Ham away in Europe with my dad, and it was a really entertaining game of football. The atmosphere was good. Our seats were good. The whole thing was just dreamland stuff. And it was annoying, but obviously the result didn't look like it was going to be too vital at that stage as well, which helped. So that was exciting stuff. Obviously the bloke losing his finger was one of the highlights after that game. Well, not highlights, sorry, the headlines after that game. Definitely not a highlight. But all in all, just that was a brilliant one, and I'll never forget that, mate. Never in all of my life. So that was wonderful. Daniel Kretinsky, he's in 27% investment, the Czech billionaire who's invested in the club. That was announced in November as well. We also beat Liverpool 3-2 at home at the London Stadium in a proper game for the ages, that one as well. A 1-0 defeat away to Wolves at Molineux before we wrapped up the Europa League qualification with a 2-0 win away at Rapid Vienna. Which me and Jonesy were going to go to, along with loads of other West Ham fans. There was, first of all, a fan ban because of what happened at Genk with fans rushing the turnstiles, but then coronavirus and lockdown in Austria meant that me and Jonesy couldn't even go for our little romantic weekend. We were just going to have a sightseeing tour and watch a game in a pub. Couldn't even do that either, so had to cancel that, lose a few quid on the flights as well. But I did turn 30 in November as well, James, mixed in amongst all that before the month finished with a 2-1 defeat at the Etihad. What's sort of quite recent history now, that, mate, and the slide, the sort of dodgy form had started to creep in, I suppose, but then when the Liverpool win was in there, you didn't really notice it at the time. It just felt like okay, this leveled itself out again, but we'll go again in December.
Yeah, I think I was just looking at it now, just looking at the record, and that Liverpool game, winning that made it just 2 defeats in 20 games in all competitions, dating back to the 15th of May.
Yeah.
We overtook them, we leapfrogged them into third in the Premier League, and just thought, like I said, but the City game, just like, this is what we're doing now. This is West Ham United, and then you follow that up with to Wolves, and then it kind of begins to slow down a little bit. But the big highlight was obviously securing qualification into the last 16 of the Europa League with the game to spare, with that win in Vienna, which is obviously disappointing we couldn't get there. But it was great that we were even in the group stage. I don't think many people expected us to make it look as easy as we did in the end. Part of me is a little bit frustrated that we didn't do it 100% record, which is what it is. Every cloud and all that, but yeah, that's the highlight for me. And then obviously the Kuczynski investment, better than PAI, knows what he's doing. Owned a football club, still owns a football club over in Czech Republic. Knows what he's doing, I think, from the football side of things, and it's not a full takeover, so it's just more an investment.
And no typos in any of his statements.
No typos in his statements. He did a really good interview with the Standard, outlining, what isn't going to happen straight away, which I thought was important, just to sort of, relax some of the fans' expectations who may have been thinking he was going to spend a lot in January. He said that's not going to happen. They're going to take time. They're going to spend, but not spend big. So yeah, happy with that. Good month all round in November, but there were obviously signs that it was all going to start to get a little bit not as great as it had been. Yeah,
I think that I genuinely wasn't worried. At the end of the month, we were still 4th in the league, and the Europa League thing, we'd secured qualification. So pragmatically and contextually, it looked really good still. I think it's obviously December, which we'll get onto shortly, that ruined it. But I think James, contender as well in November for tweet of the year from me, when just I don't know, about 5 minutes before the Genk game started, I just sort of put a tweet out, wanted to show off a little bit the fact I was there and having an absolutely superb time. So I thought, take a picture of the ground. I was really proud of West Ham's record in the Europa League group stage up until then. So I tweeted a few minutes before the kickoff, a couple of pictures of inside the stadium and all that. West Ham looking to go become the first English team ever to go through to get through a Europa League group stage campaign without conceding a goal. 4 minutes into the game, Joseph Pansil, not sure if he's a relation of John or not, scores to put Genk 1-0 up, and I tweeted straight afterwards, never mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I think after that I said that, if we did get to Vienna, then I'll be banning you from Twitter or taking your phone away from you in Vienna, just in case you ruined that one, but we weren't there in the end.
No, exactly. Yeah, very gutted we weren't able to go. And that, Jonesy, brings us on to the month we are in at the moment. Busy game, fixture-wise, for West Ham, of course, especially with that final Europa League group stage campaign against Dinamo Zagreb. But the fixtures thus far, Brighton at Hove Albion, and I don't even want to talk about that. 1-1, absolutely ridiculous that we still can't be flipping Brighton. Brighton at home draw, and then beating Chelsea on the 4th. What a win that was, 3-2. The Dinamo Zagreb game at London Stadium, our first defeat of that group stage campaign with all of our kids. Lost 1-0, of course, but what a goal it was to win it for the Croatians. Then we drew 0-0 away at Turf Moor with Burnley, and that's when the sliders started. Really, a 2-0 defeat away to Arsenal in the Premier League before a 2-1 defeat at Tottenham. 2-1 in the League Cup the other night. And at time of recording this, those are all the games. We still haven't played Southampton on Boxing Day yet. But, Jonesy, those games there, very recent history. We've covered them on the pod recently. We've remained 4th in the Premier League and then 5th after the drop down to 5th after the Arsenal game. It's where we remain at time of recording this podcast. Most people who listen will know our thoughts on all those games that have just gone because they've happened this month. What's your standout so far? How are you feeling about it before we have a little bit of a look back at that Tottenham game?
Well, obviously the Chelsea wins the highlight. I find it interesting that the Premier League have come out and admitted to the club that they got the penalty decision wrong in the Burnley game and shouldn't have sent.
Of course they did.
Off in the and it wasn't a penalty in the Arsenal game.
It's just ridiculous that. Flipping well winds me up. Just keep shut up about it afterwards, isn't it?
They came out and admitted that both were wrong, but they still said that Soufal had to serve his 1-match suspension against Tottenham in the Cup, which I find absolutely bizarre.
I know. What's the point of saying anything? What a circus.
For me, it was the equivalent of them saying to someone that's been convicted of a crime, going, "Oh, we've just realised that actually you didn't commit the crime, but you still got to serve the sentence."
Yeah, exactly.
Like, well, hang on, you've just admitted that you shouldn't have sent the player off, so why is he still suspended for our next game?
Yeah, we've sent you to jail, mate, so it's a bit of a ball like getting you out, so we're just going to leave you there till the end of your sentence, if that's all right.
It's like, what are you doing? The whole thing's a shambles. I mean, again, are we surprised that it's a shambles, given...
Well, the beginning of the season was really good, mate.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like it was really good, but there's always potential for shambolic episodes like this. And the fact that they've even come out and admitted that they were wrong, but then still not done anything about it. It's like, I'm not saying change the result or let's replay the game. It's just like just make the right decision. Just don't let him be suspended for the game.
At least overturn the ban, innit? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, come on, but. Other than that, yeah, the Chelsea game's the highlight. But it's beginning to slip a little bit. I thought the performance against Tottenham in the Cup was a lot better than what we've seen over the last few weeks. I thought the performance was a lot better. Give me a lot of hope that actually we're going to come out the other end of this little blip and get back onto good form. If we can end the season well with a win against Southampton, I think that's at the end of the year well with a win over Southampton, then that would be good. But yeah, I think the few games before that, you can't really count the Zagreb game because it was a bit almost a C team, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it does.
Can't really count that.
That was it was brilliant, mate. To be fair, to see the youngsters do so well.
It was, and every single one of them did well. I thought, Harrison Ashby's even stayed in contention. I know, obviously, injuries have helped him. He looks good. He looked good against Spurs. And I'm sure one or two others as well will get more opportunities as the season goes on. So it's good for them. Great to see them play. But you can't really count that as a fixture in the current blip that we're in. You almost got to write that one off a little bit.
Yeah, it
just the Brighton game, the Burnley game, the Arsenal game, just performances weren't great anyway.
No.
And then the Tottenham games, I think we were unlucky in the end.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Yeah, I mean, just looking at it, it's the worst run of form of the year. I know you can't really count the Zagreb game, but even if you write that one off, we haven't gone 3 games without a win all season. So we've now gone 4 if you're including the Dynamo Zagreb game, which technically I suppose you have to. But like I say, it doesn't count. But even if you just take Burnley, Arsenal and Tottenham, it's the first time in 2021 we've played 3 matches and not won one of them. So I think it's easy to feel a little bit flat at the moment, but we shouldn't at all, mate. We shouldn't at all, because it has been a phenomenal 12 months of football for West Ham United. Jonesy, you mentioned it there. It's just like a nice link to it. We went to Tottenham the other night, didn't we? Me and you.
Yep.
The first hilarious thing that you pointed out to me during the game, we've known each other and been mates for pushing on 3 years now, since we've been doing the podcast and the radio show and all that sort of thing. Become firm friends, as well as podcast colleagues. And that was the first football game ever we've watched together. Oh, sorry, first West Ham game. Well, and football game. But first West Ham game ever we've watched together, wasn't it?
Yeah, we've never even watched a game in the pub together.
No, maybe not. Not
I can remember.
Maybe like one been on in the pub before the Love Sport radio days. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So yeah, it was nice to have a first. Scratch that one off the list, mate. But
yeah,
we couldn't do anything. We couldn't even show our emotions during the game either, could we?
No, that's right. No, it's sat in the tickets I managed to get hold of were in the Tottenham end. I say unfortunately, I sent James on the way there. I've been watched West Ham in the home end of away grounds about 6 times, I would say. About three at Arsenal, 3 at Man United, and then 1 at Tottenham the other night. I've done it at Tottenham once before as well, and we've lost every single time. So whether that's just I'm just a bit of a jinx or not. But yeah, I think, Jonesy, it's fair to say that I did a better job of blending in with the home fans than you did.
I don't know. Why'd you say that?
Well, okay, I say that because, first of all, when Tottenham's first goal went in, I at least stood up and did a half-hearted clap. You just stood there with your arms folded, looking furious. And when Jared Bowen's goal went in for the equaliser, which we were obviously both delighted about, I clenched my fist. My fist, hands were already in my pockets. I clenched my fist and looked up to the sky and shook my head, so at least made it look like I was furious about it. Meanwhile, you bent down, clearly beaming from ear to ear in your seat, as if like the most inconspicuous celebration ever. And I'm pretty sure I saw a clenched fist at one stage. And when Tottenham's second one went in, same again. I stood up at least and did a half-hearted clap once again. You just stood up looking absolutely furious, hands in your pockets. Yeah, no, I mean, there was no cheering Tottenham's goals from any of us. Let's have it right. But yeah,
I don't know how you brought yourself to clap, but I just
it's half-hearted, mate.
Absolutely, I couldn't even bring myself. Standing up was hard enough. The geezer next to me didn't stand up with the goals, and he was a Tottenham fan. I mean, granted, he was a little bit old and probably couldn't stand up for very long anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, I probably would have blended in had I not stood up, but I stood up anyway. But there was no way I was clapping, and I thought I hid the celebration for the Bowen goal really well.
Wow, mate, that was the most blatant bit. You bent down in your seat.
I was wearing a turtleneck. I had the turtleneck rolled up above my mouth as if it was a mask. Bent down, screamed a little bit. I remember squeezing your knee a little bit as well, just going, I can't believe you scored. Yeah, I make no apologies for that. Like, no one got done.
It's the most blatant thing I've ever seen.
I mean, it's what it is.
Dear. What finish? Funny. No, yeah. What a go. No, you're right. The performance was good. The stadium is okay. They're all the waxing lyrical about it. We worked out that West Ham's cost $2 million a year, and Spurs cost $1 billion to build. West Ham would need to be at their stadium for 500 years before it had cost the club the same amount Tottenham's did. And I don't know if it's really worth it, mate, just for a sort of nice, warm Brewdog pub inside. Do you?
No, I mean, it's quite nice inside. Like the bar area is good. It's good. You can have a beer after the game as well.
Yeah.
That's affordable,
yeah,
but
it's good.
Nothing special. Nothing special.
No,
I mean, I've seen better cheese factories.
Jamesy, we'll sort of sign off then. What did you make of the Tottenham? Because obviously Tottenham fans don't care about West Ham, do they? having experienced the game in and among the Tottenham fans, what your thoughts on that stance?
I think it's fair to say that Tottenham fans absolutely despise West Ham.
Detest
It's
West
like
Ham.
literally, and if anyone listening knows a Spurs fan, and that Spurs fan ever tries to tell you that West Ham are irrelevant to them, don't care, Arsenal are their biggest rivals, then you know they're lying. You know they're lying. The amount of we heard, I mean, some
Vitriol.
very horrible things said about our football club and us fans.
Yeah.
Very not very nice words been said. But like even when we're queuing up for the train and like even people talk amongst themselves, and some fans going up just absolutely buzzing that we've beaten West Ham. You know, they're this, they're that. I'm so delighted. Don't care that we've got Chelsea in the semi-finals. At least we knocked them out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, but I thought we were irrelevant. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, they care about us, and we've now got proof because you know they were dancing about West Ham getting battered in the bar after.
Yeah, just nicking another club's song shot.
They were singing West Ham get battered everywhere they go, and they were dancing and hugging each other, and you know it was like they just won the cup.
Yeah.
So
rather than the quarter final.
Yeah, not sure who's the irrelevant team anymore. To be fair, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they haven't got any European football to look forward to like us, have they? So different priorities, mate. But yeah, look, good occasion. Yeah, and just a bit of a shame. West Ham couldn't get a win. But that wraps up mine and Jonesy's football matches so far this season. Yeah, what a 12 months it has been. Absolutely superb on the pitch. Couldn't be prouder of the team. Some great results. And you know what? I know we're in a bit of a weird bit of form at the moment. Hopefully, by the time you listen to this, we'll have got a win over Southampton on Boxing Day, which means it doesn't look as bad. Look at where we are in the Premier League table. We're in the last 16 of a European competition. We beat Manchester United and Manchester City in the League Cup to get to the quarterfinal and lost by the odd goal against Tottenham. The quadruple might not be on, but the treble still is. So don't worry. Stay with us. We'll have the end of year awards next. So, Jonesy, the end of year awards. We just did 2 last year, and I want to keep it simple again this season. I want your player of the year and your moment of the year. First of all, I'll have your player, please.
So, since you asked me this, you asked me last night, and I've been thinking about it, and it couldn't be Jesse Lingard because he's only been around for half the year, although he did enough in the first half of the year to warrant it. I was thinking about Craig Dawson just because he's just been monumental when he has played. But I'm going to give it to Mikel Antonio, I think, breaking the club record for Premier League goals and building on the great 2020 that he had after the pandemic or after Project Restart. I think he's been superb. He's tailed off recently, but he's my player of the year.
Well played, Jonesy. Well, you know what? Interestingly enough, that is exactly who you gave player of the year to last season. You gave it to Mikel Antonio. And I must admit, I think he would have been in contention for me if it wasn't for his recent form. I've been really disappointed in that. And I think if he'd shown a bit more, then perhaps I would have considered giving it to him. I am also giving my Player of the Year award to the same person who I gave it to for 2020, and that is Declan Rice. I know it seems an obvious one, and I appreciate you going for Mikel Antonio, and I understand why you have, but we haven't seen a player like Declan Rice at West Ham for many, many a year, and it's a joy to watch him play every week. The way he conducts himself is superb. He was an integral part of England's run to the Euros. He's a special, special player and a special lad as well. The way he goes about his business is outstanding and to be admired. And the fact that he's captained the club at such a young age in Mark Noble's absence, he's been by far and away the best player in almost every single one of the games we've played. So, yeah, I can look no further than Declan. And, I hope we're talking about enjoying another 12 months of seeing him playing Claret and Blue this time next year. That remains to be seen. But for now, I'm just enjoying watching him play for the club because it is superb and I absolutely love him. So, yeah, my player of the year goes to Declan Rice. Jonesy's goes to Mikel Antonio. I wonder, James, if there'll be 3 consecutive years next year, because that is who you gave it to last year. You reckon there's much chance of that, Declan Rice and Antonio being player of the year next year? Because I can't see it.
No, I don't think so. Antonio's probably got more of a chance than Dec, but yeah, I can't imagine. I can't imagine we'll be talking
That
about those
means you
two.
think Declan Rice is going to go before next year.
I
Horrible.
mean, I
Let's
do,
not end.
unfortunately. Yeah, I do.
Let's not end the year on that note, Jonesy. Right, mate. Give me your moment of the year then.
Another one so difficult, particularly because there's been so many. Like literally, you could. I literally struggled with this one a lot. It could have been the Chelsea win a couple of weeks ago. It could have been the Liverpool win, but it could have been Mikel Antonio breaking the record and holding up his cardboard cutout of himself, which I still look back on and just think it was incredibly cringy but fun at the same time. But I'm going to give it to the win over Southampton on the final day of last season to secure top six finish to cement it. I think we only needed a point that day anyway, but so we knew we'd finish in the top six, and we secured group stage Europa League football for the following year. I think for me is the moment that I'll look back on and remember really, really fondly from 2021 because it capped off what had been a great first 6 months and then kind of set the tone for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I like that, mate. I do like that. And again, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Historic, and it's so important for West Ham, the things that never happened before. That's definitely up there. I know exactly what you mean, and securing it was great. I'm gonna go. I've got two that I really genuinely can't choose between, mate. And that is the winning penalty going in against Manchester City in the League Cup. As mentioned already, the Brentford game, I went with my mate's little boy, who is absolutely brilliant. I love him so much. He's 7 now. He's started getting into West Ham properly, and he's at that age where he loves it. He's like a sponge, and he absorbs everything. The Brentford game was his first game, and that was great. But his second one was Manchester City, his first ever night game. He's the son of my best friend. So I was there with my best mate, his little boy, who I love to pieces, and my dad. For a night game at London Stadium. We knocked Manchester City out of a competition they haven't lost in for 5 years in a penalty shootout, which West Ham never ever win. And William, who's the name of my mate's little boy, he said just before the shootout, he turned to me and he said, Will, I don't like this. My legs are shaking, because he was so nervous about it. And the joy on his face was matched equally by that on my mates and my dad's. After Benrahma scored that winning penalty. And so that moment was just joyous and magical, seeing him be there for it. It was his first West Ham win. That was great. And the one I've mentioned already is the Genk away, just being at an away Europa League game with my dad, who I've always gone to football with, seeing West Ham score away in Europe. So I know that's a bit of a cop-out, mate. I can't really pick between them. And they're a combination, because football's about people you love, isn't it? And the people you go with and the experiences you have. It's as much about that for me, particularly for West Ham fans. It's rarely about the glory. So a combination of that, just being there with special people and the special things that West Ham did on the pitch at the same time. So yeah, those are my two moments, I'm afraid. I hope you forgive me, as it's Christmas time, mate, having two rather than one.
No, I think it's fair. Obviously, completely understands the City one with the little one, because obviously I dream of one day being able to take my son to a game and him experience the highs and lows of West Ham, like we have over our time. Be able to see his face when we win stuff and win games and stuff like that. So I 100% behind that one, mate. I think it's a good one.
Absolutely, mate. Right, Jonesy, that's us for 2021. It's been brilliant, mate. First of all, just give me some final thoughts before we do all the wrapping up, the housekeeping, and say goodbye. Just sum up. Just give me some final thoughts for the year generally. Whatever you want to talk about, whatever it is. Just say a last sort of message or some last words for 2021 from you.
Well, I mean, we've said it all really in this show. I think there's not many more words that can sum up how good this year's been, both for West Ham on the pitch, off the pitch, but also for the podcast. I think, it's just been a memorable year, both on and off the pitch, for everyone involved. And I think from my point of view, I'd like to thank everyone for still listening to the pod and sticking by us, and all the great messages we said at the beginning of the show. All the great messages we get, we love it. And tuning in every week and listening to my boring voice and me and Will every now and then disagreeing on stuff that goes on at the club. It's great, and love doing it. And obviously, mate, love doing it with you. If I didn't, I would have stopped a long time ago. So, still love doing it, and really looking forward to seeing what 2022 brings us, and for the podcast, but also probably more importantly for the club as well, because I think it's getting very exciting to see where we can go as a football club and a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I totally echo those sentiments. You've been a great pal to me this year. And yeah, I mean, we're going to have to sort that out, mate. We're going to have to watch some more West Ham games together, aren't we?
Yeah.
It just hit me the other night when you said it. I was like, how the hell? We literally chat about West Ham together every week for 2 hours. We haven't watched the game together. We'll have to address that next year, mate, for sure. Get to a few more Hammers games together. But yeah, you've been, it's been great doing it with you this year. Nice and constant. The two of us, as it's been from the beginning, looking forward to keeping it going next year. Like you say, it's been phenomenal from a West Ham point of view, but for the podcast point of view as well, echo James's sentiments. Thanks to all of you guys at home. Don't forget, if you don't already, you can follow us on Twitter at @WeAre_West Ham, or on Instagram at @WeAreWestHamPod. Facebook, just search the We Are West Ham podcast. We're on YouTube at the We Are West Ham podcast as well. Subscribe to the pod, give us 5 stars, write a review, more importantly, tell your friends. Do us a favour, actually. At Christmas, if you're at Christmas, surely you're going to have a loose end this time around. If you don't already, follow us on those social media channels that I've just said. Do us a favour, go to Twitter now at @WeAre_West Ham. If you've got a Twitter account, hit the follow button. Instagram, do the same. We Are West Ham Pod. Just go and follow us over there. We Are West Ham Podcast on Facebook and YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube. I think if you're only going to do one, do the YouTube one, because James puts a lot of effort into that. This season it has grown and grown. Like he said, 500 subscribers is more than I thought, and that's nowhere near the amount of people who listen to this podcast every week. So if you're one of those who's got a YouTube account or whatever, but you don't currently subscribe, do us a favor, go over there, subscribe. If you can, link up with us on all those social media platforms. That'll be great. If you're a festive loose end, you've had a couple of Baileys, leave us a review. We've got 70 already now, which I didn't realise the other day. And again, that is an absolute fraction of the amount of people that download and listen to this podcast every week. So if you've got time, link us up on social media this Christmas, New Year period. Leave us a review on iTunes if that's where you listen. And thanks again, really. Thanks for listening all this year. It's been the best 12 months of football in my life. West Ham United finish it 5th in the Premier League, through to the last 16 of the Europa League. Unfortunately, out of the Carabao Cup at the hands of Tottenham, but having beaten Manchester United at Old Trafford for the first time in 15 years and beating Manchester City in a competition they haven't lost in for 5 years on the way. That was a journey in itself. We've got the FA Cup to come in January, the chance of a mouthwatering European fixture. God knows what memories we're going to be able to create in 2022. We, of course, all want the squad to be added to, but let's just wait and see. First of all, before we worry about January and transfers, just reflect if you can. Hopefully this podcast is let you do that this week, but just look back and reflect and drink it all in, enjoy it. Think of exactly what we've done, what we've achieved as a club this year and as a fan base. I'll reiterate it again, what Jonesy said. Thanks so much for listening this year. It's been brilliant. Thanks so much for getting in touch in whatever way you have. Thanks if you've contributed at all, if you're any of the journalists and guests we've had. It's been an absolute blast. We're looking forward to cracking on and continuing with it in 2022 with your support. Up the Hammers. West Ham are massive everywhere they go. And we'll see you next year.